Marshall Peak, Chapter 5068, Gui Liao's Hobby. Gui Liao shot him a glance. What's wrong? Are you not happy with it? Liu Ziyan quickly said he wouldn't dare to, but he was evidently unresigned. In the past, he had done everything he could to defend the humans. After he was corrupted by black ink strength on the battlefield, he sacrificed a part of his small universe. Therefore, when he became a black ink disciple, his small universe was incomplete. Then, it took him 300 years to gain enough contributions on the battlefield before Gui Liao gave him a profound yin spirit fruit to repair his small universe. The treatment he had received was totally not comparable to what Yang Kai could enjoy now, which was why he was unresigned. However, he wouldn't dare to express his true feelings in front of Gui Liao now. Upon seeing his expression, Gui Liao snorted. You heard what Jia Jiyu said earlier. That guy is strong. That's why Sir Territory Lord regards him highly. How are you comparable to him? A sense of haughtiness flashed across Liu Ziyan's face. We'll only find out about it after he and I fight. Gui Liao said impassively, his Sir Territory Lord's black ink disciple. If you really dare to do anything to him, Sir Territory Lord will not let you off when he's done recuperating. Liu Ziyan grinned. Don't worry, Master. I'll only teach him a lesson when there's a chance. It's not like I'll kill him. I won't make things difficult for you. Gui Liao nodded. Good, just don't go too far. After giving it a thought, he shook his head. Actually, you'd better not complicate the matter. Even though Sir Territory Lord is recuperating in the black ink nest, he'll come out one day. Liu Ziyan frowned. Do we give him a profound yin spirit fruit just like this? Gui Liao sneered. Sir Territory Lord only ordered me to get him a profound yin spirit fruit. As for when I'll find one, that's up to me. I'll also see if he's tactful enough before I'll decide whether I'll give it to him. He tapped on the table. I guess he'll look for you again. I'm sure you know what to do then. I get it, Master. Don't worry about it, Liu Ziyan replied respectfully. You may leave now. Gui Liao waved his hand, then Liu Ziyan left the place. Yang Kai cultivated silently in his room. More than 10 days later, the profound yin spirit fruit was still nowhere in sight. Logically, there should be all sorts of resources in the Territory Lord's territory. When he came to this place with He Yuan, he witnessed the prosperity firsthand. Even though profound yin spirit fruits were rare, the demand for them among the Black Ink clan should be far smaller than that among the humans, so there should be a reserve of them in the castle. Moreover, He Yuan had given the order in public, and Yang Kai had asked Liu Ziyan to help him ask Gui Liao about it. Hence, Gui Liao should have sent a profound yin spirit fruit to him by now. Yang Kai felt that something was off as he still hadn't got his hands on a profound yin spirit fruit up until now. Furthermore, it was truly inefficient to cultivate by refining open heaven pills as it was much slower than what he could achieve in the past. Given his situation, he couldn't possibly fish out a set of 7th-order materials and refine them though. He also couldn't set up a restriction around this room. After giving it a thought, he decided to look for Gui Liao and ask about it. The moment he left the side hall, he saw a black ink clansman who appeared to be in a hurry. This black ink clansman was weak as he was only equivalent to a 5th-order open heaven realm master. Yang Kai directly stopped him and asked, "Excuse me, where is Sir Gui Liao?" The black ink clansman was startled for a moment as he swept a glance over Yang Kai with surprise. It had to be noted that black ink disciples were lowly slaves in the black ink clan's territory and had to be subservient whenever they saw any black ink clansman. It was the first time this black ink clansman came across a black ink disciple who dared to stop him like this. However, he soon recalled that this black ink disciple was personally corrupted by Sir Territory Lord, so he was unlike the other black ink disciples. He supposed that was the reason this black ink disciple was this audacious. While suppressing his fury, he shook his head. I have no idea. Upon finishing his words, he stopped responding to Yang Kai and left. With no other choice, Yang Kai went on to ask several black ink clansmen about it, but none of them knew where Gui Liao was. Perhaps they were aware of Gui Liao's whereabouts, but they just were not willing to tell him. This made Yang Kai furrow his brow. Since he was unable to find Gui Liao, how was he supposed to ask about the profound yin spirit fruit? After giving it a thought, he decided to release his divine sense to scan the entire castle. The powerful divine sense swept across the castle like a tide, which prompted everyone in the place to react. There were many feudal lords in the castle, so it was only natural that they were furious at Yang Kai, who had the gall to scan the place with his divine sense. Nevertheless, Yang Kai retracted his divine sense a brief moment later. Before the feudal lords could counterattack, his divine sense had returned to him. During the momentary inspection, he was unable to detect Gui Liao's aura. It seemed that those Black Ink clansmen were not lying when they said they didn't know where Gui Liao was. After pondering on it for a moment, he headed in a particular direction. A moment later, he arrived at a courtyard where there was a restriction set up. He directly flicked at the restriction and caused a layer of ripples to spread. Soon, the restriction was turned off. After the door was opened, Liu Ziyan's furious-looking face came into Yang Kai's sight. It wasn't because of luck that he found Liu Ziyan's residence. When he scanned the castle with his divine sense just now, the restriction in this place was triggered. For a brief moment, Liu Ziyan revealed his aura to ascertain what was going on. That was how Yang Kai found out his whereabouts. Brother Liu. Yang Kai took a step back and cupped his fist. Fury was written all over Liu Ziyan's face. Upon seeing Yang Kai, he snapped, "It's you. I was wondering who had the gall to do such a thing." Yang Kai chuckled, "I'm sorry, but I had no other choice." "What's wrong?" Liu Ziyan asked in a grim voice. Yang Kai nodded, "There's something I need to ask you about." Liu Ziyan frowned and stepped aside, "Come in first." After thanking him, Yang Kai entered the courtyard with him. As he looked around, he arched his brow. This courtyard was definitely much better than the room assigned to him by Gui Liao, as it was more suitable for humans to live in. It was apparently because Gui Liao regarded Liu Ziyan highly. On the other hand, even though Yang Kai was He Yuan's Black Ink disciple, he wasn't close to Gui Liao. That was the reason Gui Liao didn't give him the same treatment and settled him down in a random room. Even if He Yuan found out about it, he wouldn't be displeased. However, it showed how little Gui Liao cared about Yang Kai. There was only a table and a chair in the courtyard. Liu Ziyan directly took a seat. Yang Kai stood in front of him and looked around. He felt as if he was here to report to him regarding work-related matters. "Whatever you have to say, just say it," Liu Ziyan said impatiently. With a smile, Yang Kai fished out a chair from his small universe and took a seat across from Liu Ziyan before replying, "Brother Liu, I'm here to ask you about the matter I had mentioned previously. Is there any update?" Liu Ziyan shot him a glance. "What matter are you talking about?" Yang Kai narrowed his eyes. "Are you playing dumb, Brother Liu? I had only mentioned one thing." He felt frustrated in his heart. The last time they met, he already realized that Liu Ziyan was haughty and aggressive, but there wasn't much hostility between them. However, this time, he could feel that Liu Ziyan was hostile towards him. He wondered what had happened as Liu Ziyan also spoke in a weird tone. In any case, both of them were Black Ink disciples, so what was the point of him acting standoffish? Moreover, he had previously asked him to inquire about the profound yin spirit fruit, but the latter played dumb now. Although he didn't need the profound yin spirit fruit, Yang Kai had to get his hands on it to cover up the secrets in his small universe. Hence, he was determined to obtain the fruit. An unfazed Liu Ziyan remained seated and said impassively, "Are you talking about the profound yin spirit fruit?" Yang Kai nodded. "You finally recalled it." Liu Ziyan replied, "I asked Sir Gui Liao about it on your behalf, but he didn't say anything. It's not up to me to influence Sir's decision." Yang Kai knitted his brows together. "Where is Sir Gui Liao, then?" Liu Ziyan snorted. "This Liu is a Black Ink disciple under Sir Gui Liao. Since he's the master, it's not like he has to tell me where he'd go whenever he heads out. How am I supposed to know where he is?" Yang Kai was rendered speechless as he had the urge to summon Azure Dragon Spear and kill him. Upon noticing the gloomy expression on the other man's face, Liu Ziyan changed the topic by saying, "Brother Yang, do you remember what I told you previously?" Yang Kai replied, "You told me many things at that time." "Which one do you mean exactly?" Liu Ziyan grinned. "Since you've forgotten about it, this Liu will tell you one more time. The Black Ink clan and the human race are not so different. You just have to get along with everyone. If you need someone's help, you can obtain it by being on good terms with them. Instantly, Yang Kai appeared to be in a dilemma. Brother Liu, I only have a small number of open heaven pills. I gave you half of them, so I'm left with very few now. Liu Ziyan snorted, no one is coveting your pathetic number of open heaven pills. A puzzled Yang Kai asked, what do you want then, Brother Liu? Liu Ziyan replied impassively, it's not what I want. I have no say when it comes to the profound yin spirit fruit. Upon realizing his meaning, Yang Kai leaned closer and asked in a small voice, what does Sir Gui Liao want, then? This guy had been beating around the bush in order to make Yang Kai understand that he had to gain Gui Liao's favor. It was up to Gui Liao to make a decision regarding the profound yin spirit fruit, and Liu Ziyan was Gui Liao's black ink disciple. Yang Kai was certain that Liu Ziyan must have gotten Gui Liao's permission to do all this. So, he's waiting for me to take the initiative to contact him. Yang Kai finally understood why Gui Liao didn't immediately give him the profound yin spirit fruit even though it was He Yuan's order. He hadn't expected that there was such a practice in Black Ink Clan. He thought that it was a terrible inconvenience. Then, he went on to say, Brother Liu, I'm sure you're aware that I have nothing valuable with me. I'm worried that I can't give Sir Gui Liao anything he would want. Liu Ziyan put on a meaningful grin, don't worry, you have plenty of what Sir Gui Liao likes the most. Upon finishing his words, he started sizing Yang Kai up. Yang Kai's expression slowly turned cold as he narrowed his eyes. Please make it clear to me, Brother Liu. It had come to a point where there was no longer a need to beat around the bush. Liu Ziyan said, I'm sure you know that Black Ink clansmen are able to consume world force. This doesn't just help increase their power, but it's also a kind of hobby for them. Sir Gui Liao's hobby is slightly different from others, though I suppose it's not accurate to say that. Perhaps many Black Ink clansmen have this hobby. They love consuming fresh world force. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5069, Spit Them Back Out. Yang Kai was startled upon hearing that. It was the first time he heard someone describe world force as fresh. World force was the foundation of an open heaven realm master's power, not a living creature. Was there such a thing as stale world force, then? Feeling puzzled, he asked, what do you mean by fresh world force? Liu Ziyan replied with a smile, have you heard of the world sphere before, Brother Yang? Yang Kai nodded, yes. Liu Ziyan explained, strictly speaking, world spheres are a kind of artifact invented by the Black Ink clan. It's used to absorb the world force that leaks out after open heaven realm masters are killed on the battlefield. World spheres are sold in every Black Ink clan's territory, and they're quite expensive. By buying a world sphere, a Black Ink clansman can consume the world force inside it to cultivate. The world force in sealed worlds could be consumed by the Black Ink clan as well, however, that kind of world force is like a tree without roots or a river without a source. It's dead. To the Black Ink clan, this kind of world force is not fresh enough. It's like stale food for humans. He paused for a moment and went on to say, on the other hand, open heaven realm masters like us have very fresh world force in our small universes. Sir Gui Liao is pretty picky, so he prefers to consume this kind of world force. Then, he looked fervently at Yang Kai, so, it's easy for you to gain Sir Gui Liao's favor. You just have to open your small universe and let him consume your world force to his heart's content. After that, he'll grant your wish. Yang Kai lowered his gaze and said impassively, is this how you please Sir Gui Liao? Liu Ziyan directly nodded, yes. However, according to Sir Gui Liao, the world force of every open heaven realm master tastes different. This Liu has been Sir Gui Liao's servant for a long time. In the past, he loved to consume my world force, but he hasn't done so for a long time now. I suppose he's already sick of it. Since you're a newcomer, you can let Sir Gui Liao have a taste of a different kind of world force. He said that the more powerful a human is, the more delicious his world force will be, and you're a powerful cultivator. If you're willing to do this, I'm sure Sir Gui Liao will see you in a different light. It'll be much easier for you to get things done as well. Is this the condition? Yang Kai lifted his head and asked. Liu Ziyan shook his head, it's not a condition. It's just my suggestion. Brother Yang, a wise man will adapt to the circumstances. This is the Black Ink clan's territory, and we're Black Ink disciples. I'm Sir Territory Lord's Black Ink disciple, not Gui Liao's. Liu Ziyan's expression changed. Stop being obstinate, Brother Yang. You'll only lose a bit of your world force. If you can get a profound yin spirit fruit, you'll be able to repair the damaged part of your small universe. By then, you can slowly cultivate and make up for the losses. Yang Kai shot him a piercing glance. Before Sir Territory Lord entered the black ink nest, he ordered Gui Liao to get me a profound yin spirit fruit. Is he going to disobey Sir Territory Lord? Liu Ziyan chuckled. No one has the guts to disobey Sir Territory Lord's orders. In fact, Sir Gui Liao has left the place to look for a profound yin spirit fruit for you. However, I'm sure you know that it's a very rare item. As for when he'll find it, or whether he'll be able to find it at all, that is up to the heavens. Up to the heavens? Yang Kai secretly cursed. It was apparent that Gui Liao wanted to force him to make a concession in such a way. He had never expected that Gui Liao had a hobby of consuming fresh world force from humans. Even though the one whose world force was getting absorbed would suffer some losses, they would be fine as long as not too much of their world force was sucked and their foundation was undamaged. The lost world force could be replenished easily enough. However, there was no way Yang Kai would agree to such a demand. First of all, there wasn't a reason for him to agree to Gui Liao's request. Secondly, if he really opened up his small universe in front of Gui Liao, his secret would be exposed. Previously, he gave up a part of his small universe twice on the battlefield because he had no other choice. Additionally, he was doing that to fool the Black Ink clansmen so that they wouldn't examine his small universe. Fortunately, everything had gone well. Why would he expose his secret at this point? Liu Ziyan leaned against the seat and said calmly, "Why don't you go back and sleep on it? Everything I've said to you is sincere. There's no need to sleep on it." Yang Kai shook his head. Liu Ziyan stared fixedly at him. "You mean?" Yang Kai snorted. "This Yang is Sir Territory Lord's Black Ink disciple, not Gui Liao's. Regardless of what Sir Territory Lord tells me to do, I'll not hesitate to do it for him. As for Gui Liao's ridiculous demand, I'll tell Sir Territory Lord about it when he comes out of the black ink nest." Liu Ziyan's expression changed drastically as he landed a slap on the table. "Don't go too far, you little bastard. It'll take Sir Territory Lord several years to recuperate. During this period of time, you'll have to work for Sir Gui Liao." "What's wrong?" Yang Kai shot him a glance. "Is he going to kill me? You're just a black ink disciple. If you make a mistake, why wouldn't Sir Gui Liao kill you?" Liu Ziyan appeared ferocious. Yang Kai sneered. "Let's see if he has the guts to do so." Liu Ziyan fell into a dazed state. After staring at him for a long time, he shook his head. "You're insane." Insane. He couldn't sense any respect for Gui Liao from Yang Kai, which was inconceivable. As a black ink disciple, how did Yang Kai have the guts to dismiss a feudal lord like Gui Liao? It seemed that he didn't know his place. Was he confident because he was the Territory Lord's Black Ink disciple? Liu Ziyan couldn't help but feel bitter. All of a sudden, Yang Kai extended his hand. "Give them back." "What?" Liu Ziyan was startled. "The open heaven pills I gave you the other day." Yang Kai pulled a long face. Initially, even though Liu Ziyan was deplorable, Yang Kai didn't intend to be on bad terms with him. After all, he was new to this place, so he didn't want to complicate things. However, what had happened totally disappointed him. Gui Liao wanted to consume his world force, and he even told Liu Ziyan to con him into accepting. Yang Kai would never agree to such a demand. However, he needed a profound yin spirit fruit to cover up the secrets in his small universe. After taking everything into consideration, he decided to make a huge fuss so that Gui Liao had to take notice. In this castle, Liu Ziyan was the best breakthrough he could make use of to achieve his goal. Liu Ziyan couldn't believe his ears. A person must be extremely thick-skinned to have the nerve to take back what he had given out. Honestly speaking, several 100,000 open heaven pills didn't matter to Liu Ziyan. However, he could never give them back to Yang Kai given the latter's attitude. If he really did so, it would be the same as admitting he was afraid of Yang Kai. After a moment of silence, Liu Ziyan sneered. "What open heaven pills? I've consumed them all." Yang Kai balled up his fists as cracking sounds were heard. His aura was rising rapidly. Since you've consumed my open heaven pills, I just have to make you spit them back out. Liu Zian was astonished as he gazed at Yang Kai in disbelief. You want to fight with me? He couldn't help but have the urge to laugh. Previously, he had suggested giving Yang Kai a lesson in front of Gui Liao. At that time, he was just displeased with the different treatments he and Yang Kai received. This brat surnamed Yang could immediately get a profound yin spirit fruit upon arrival, while it wasn't until 300 years after he became a black ink disciple that he got the fruit. Moreover, he only obtained it because he had made many contributions. Nevertheless, Gui Liao told him not to complicate things, so he cast the idea aside. Now that he was provoked by Yang Kai though, he could seize the chance to teach him a lesson. Certainly, he wouldn't dare to disobey Gui Liao's order. However, there was nothing to worry about now since it was Yang Kai who made the first move. This way, he could explain himself to Gui Liao. When Jia Jiyu reported to Gui Liao about the battle that Yang Kai had taken part in, Liu Zian, who was hiding in the darkness, could hear it clearly as well. He knew that this new black ink disciple that the territory lord had taken on was powerful, as Yang Kai was able to lead a squad to kill several thousand black ink clansmen, including more than 10 feudal lords. Liu Zian didn't think he was capable of doing that. However, that was what Yang Kai could achieve when he was at his peak. During that battle, Yang Kai sacrificed pieces of his small universe twice. Now, his small universe was incomplete, and his foundation had been damaged. There was no doubt that his power had plunged. In that case, why would Liu Zian need to fear him? He was instantly infuriated by Yang Kai's provocation, and his seventh-order aura flared sharply. His entire figure was engulfed in a dark fog as he pushed his power, his figure seemingly expanding as well. The sarcoma on his neck throbbed against his skin like a beating heart. He slowly rose from the chair and looked condescendingly at Yang Kai. With a grin, he snickered, "Brat, do you know the consequences of provoking me?" Even though he appeared to be giving Yang Kai a warning, he was actually eager to see him make a move. Yang Kai scoffed, "Anyone ever tell you, you talk too much?" Upon finishing his words, he threw out his fist. Liu Zian almost had the urge to cheer for Yang Kai. He had never expected this person surnamed Yang to be so impetuous that he would make a move on a whim. It was unlike how polite Yang Kai had appeared to be up until now. This was exactly the outcome Liu Zian wanted. The moment he saw Yang Kai making a move, he also pushed out his fist without hesitation. He was a burly man, so his fist was also significantly larger than that of Yang Kai. When their fists came into contact, it was as though two universe worlds had clashed. As the world force surged, Liu Zian abruptly stopped appearing haughty as his huge figure was sent flying away like an arrow. He directly crashed into a wall and formed a pit in the ground. On the other hand, Yang Kai was forced to back several steps before he managed to stabilize himself. His surging aura made his clothes flap in the wind. Shaking his head, Yang Kai stepped forward. He wasn't used to the condition he was in. If he were still at the peak of his power, he could have severely wounded someone like Liu Zian with one punch and killed him in 3. However, his strength really had plunged as a result of the damage to his small universe, leaving him far weaker than before. Fortunately, his opponent was Liu Zian. Even though Liu Zian was also a 7th order master, he reached this order by using the black ink strength to break through his natural limit, the 6th order open heaven realm. Liu Zian's foundation was unstable, so he was unable to fully utilize the power of the 7th order open heaven realm. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5070, I'd like to file a complaint. After an exchange of moves, Yang Kai had a better judgment of Liu Zian's true power. He was indeed a 7th order master, as manifested by his ample world force. However, he was unable to fully utilize that power. His cultivation was nothing more than a castle built from sand. On the other hand, even though Yang Kai had sacrificed a part of his small universe twice, which caused his foundation to be damaged, he still had the world tree clone to continuously purify his world force. Therefore, while he was no match for the other party when it came to strength output, the quality of his power allowed him to overpower his opponent. That was the reason he gained the upper hand following the exchange of moves. An increasingly ferocious aura billowed from the ruins. A burly figure stepped out of the demolished building. For every step Liu Ziyan took, the entire ground seemed to be shaking. Black ink strength was seen swirling around him, and even his eyes had turned completely black. He glared at Yang Kai and said through clenched teeth, "Boy, you caught death." As soon as he finished speaking, he charged towards Yang Kai at the speed of lightning. While in mid-air, he turned his fists into innumerable phantoms and engulfed Yang Kai with them. Yang Kai had already intended to make a fuss, so he naturally wouldn't back down at this point. He charged right at Liu Ziyan and engaged him in a brutal melee. The noise of the battle soon alerted everyone in the castle. The feudal lords, who resided in different places, subsequently appeared and watched them from a distance. When they realized it was a battle between Gui Liao's Black Ink disciple and the Territory Lord's Black Ink disciple, they were astounded. They had no idea what had happened that caused these two humans to get into a life-and-death fight. Nevertheless, these feudal lords didn't have the intention of interfering or stopping them. To them, even though these humans had been corrupted by Black Ink strength, they were not the same as Black Ink clansmen like them, who had a noble bloodline. Naturally, they wouldn't care whether one of them was injured or even killed. In fact, they had fun watching the battle and chatted among themselves. The battle in the courtyard between Yang Kai and Liu Ziyan was intense. As time passed, Yang Kai realized that this guy indeed had a problem mobilizing his strength. Sometimes, his attacks would be so forceful that even Yang Kai found it hard to fend off, but sometimes, his strikes would be so powerless that Yang Kai could easily find openings and land direct hits on his figure, which caused him to groan in pain. It meant that Liu Ziyan was unable to use his power flexibly. Instead, his utilization of his world force was unstable. Sometimes, he could showcase his real power, but sometimes, he would be strong in will while weak in strength. Any open heaven realm master with a solid foundation wouldn't face such a problem. One must be fully at ease with using their power in order to ascend to the open heaven realm, so they wouldn't have to deal with such a situation. The reason Liu Ziyan was unable to effortlessly use his strength was that he didn't deserve to be in the 7th Order open heaven realm in the first place. Given his condition, he would be killed soon after he stepped onto the battlefield. Once his weaknesses were detected by the opponent, he would lose his life. In fact, it wasn't hard for Yang Kai to kill him now, but he didn't have the intention of doing so. It was no longer possible to save Liu Ziyan. Even if the Black Ink strength inside his body was dispelled using purifying light, his small universe would shatter as it was unable to bear 7th Order open heaven realm power. Nevertheless, he was Gui Liao's Black Ink disciple, so if he was killed here, Gui Liao would definitely avenge his death. Liu Ziyan was right to say that it would take He Yuan several years to recuperate, and Gui Liao was tasked with handling the affairs in the territory until then. Yang Kai would have a hard time here if he offended him too seriously. It wasn't long before Liu Ziyan fell into a complete disadvantage. This made him increasingly infuriated. He initially thought that Yang Kai wouldn't be a match for him as the latter's foundation had been damaged, but after the battle started, he realized that things were different from what he had imagined. Yang Kai was still powerful even though his small universe was incomplete. It was no wonder that when he was at the peak of his power, he was able to kill so many feudal lords and Black Ink clansmen. At this moment, Liu Ziyan found himself in a dilemma. He could only madly push his power in an attempt to suppress Yang Kai while at the same time, he prayed that the latter wouldn't be able to persevere due to his weakened foundation. The more he exerted his strength, the thicker the Black Ink strength around him became while the aura wafting from his body became increasingly unstable. However, Liu Ziyan seemed oblivious to all of that while Yang Kai had faintly detected it. By activating the power he was unable to control, Liu Ziyan would soon suffer a backlash. When that happened, he would be crippled even if he didn't lose his life. Just then, Yang Kai detected something as he slowed down his attack. Liu Ziyan was elated upon seeing that, but just as he was preparing to push his advantage, a voice was heard snapping, "Both of you, stop right there." In the next instant, a figure descended from the sky and landed between Yang Kai and Liu Ziyan. An agile Yang Kai promptly leapt backwards. On the other hand, Liu Ziyan, who was blinded by wrath, forcefully pushed out his fist and attacked the person in front of him. However, the instant he made out the person's face, he was flabbergasted as he quickly retracted his fist. Forcefully withdrawing his strike caused Liu Zi and small universe to shake and his world force to descend into chaos. The next moment, he was heard spraying out a mouthful of blood. His aura had withered as he was unable to bear the consequences of this impact. While trying to support his own weight, he cupped his fists. Master. Gui Liao shot him an impassive glance, which caused his back to be covered with cold sweat and his legs to tremble. A black ink disciple could never go against his master, and this time, he seemed to have screwed things up. That was why he was apprehensive. Sir Gui Liao. Yang Kai cupped his fist while secretly scoffing at the fact that Gui Liao was finally alerted. Judging from the direction he came from, he was indeed not in the castle moments ago. However, the repercussions of the battle between two Seventh Order masters could spread across half this universe fragment. As long as he wasn't too far away, Gui Liao could definitely sense it. Upon hearing that, Gui Liao turned around and glared at Yang Kai. While the territory lord was still recuperating, two black ink disciples got into a fight and caused a large part of the castle to be damaged. Regardless of the cause of the fight, Gui Liao would be held responsible for not managing the situation properly. When the territory lord returned from the black ink nest and asked about it, Gui Liao would probably be reprimanded. Although it wasn't a big issue, he was still displeased. Can anyone tell me what's going on? Gui Liao asked in a grim voice. Liu Zi and wouldn't dare to say anything. It wasn't like he could say Yang Kai had turned him down and wanted to get back the open heaven pills given to him, which was why they got into a fight. While Liu Zian was timid, Yang Kai was confident as he cupped his fist. Sir Gui Liao, I'd like to file a complaint against Liu Zian for oppressing a newcomer like me who doesn't know the customs in the Black Ink clan's base. He has demanded a lot of benefits from me using your name. Right after Yang Kai finished speaking, Gui Liao felt his heart sinking as he regretted asking such a foolish question. He didn't give it any serious consideration as he was furious earlier, but now that he thought about it, he should have brought these two humans to a quiet place so that there wouldn't be so many feudal lords watching them. Is that true? Gui Liao narrowed his eyes and glanced at Liu Zian. Liu Zian's face was covered with cold sweat. No. Yang Kai glowered at him. Do you have the gall to say that you didn't take my open heaven pills on the first day of my arrival? Liu Zian snapped. I didn't make such a demand. You gave them to me. Yang Kai snorted. If you hadn't asked for them, why would I give anything to you? Indeed, you didn't make it clear, but you implied that I should give you some benefits if I wanted to live a better life here. I'm not a fool, so it's expected that I would be able to read between the lines. I'm a newcomer, so I wouldn't dare to say no. I could only make a sacrifice. He then turned to Gui Liao and cupped his fist. Please stand up for me, Sir Gui Liao. I only had a small number of open heaven pills, but I still gave him half of everything I had, thinking that I could befriend him. To my surprise, this guy was greedy as he thought that my gift was not valuable enough. He even used your name and tried to demand more from me today. Stop spouting nonsense. Liu Zian roared as he was worried that Yang Kai would break the secret to everyone. The Black Ink clansmen in the castle were aware of Gui Liao's hobby. In fact, many of them enjoyed doing it as well. However, knowing was one thing, but making it public was another. It would be fine to do some things in private, but it would be ugly when they were talked about publicly. It was especially true as Yang Kai's identity was special. He was the Black Ink disciple personally corrupted by He Yuan territory lord. It would have been fine if Yang Kai wasn't He Yuan's Black Ink disciple. However, this relationship was truly significant. Since Gui Liao had his eyes on his Black Ink disciple, it would suggest that he had no regard for He Yuan at all. This issue could be small or big. It might not be worth mentioning as Yang Kai's life was not at stake. Nevertheless, if He Yuan felt insulted, it would mean that Gui Liao had crossed the line by offending his superior. Gui Liao wouldn't be able to bear the wrath if the territory lord blamed him. It would have been all right if Gui Liao could secretly settle the matter. From his standpoint, he believed that a newcomer like Yang Kai wouldn't dare to resist as it wouldn't matter to lose a bit of world force. However, he hadn't expected the other party to be so obstinate and defiant. While remaining silent, Gui Liao felt his brow twitching. Yang Kai asked, Sir, don't you want to know how he tarnishes your reputation? It had come to a point where Gui Liao had to get to the bottom of it in front of everyone. Otherwise, he would only appear guilty, so he replied with a nod, "Speak." Despite his casual look, Gui Liao's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Seemingly oblivious to this, Yang Kai proclaimed loudly, "Before Sir Territory Lord entered the black ink nest, he had told you to get a profound yin spirit fruit for me. I've been waiting for days, but there hasn't been any news about it. I initially wanted to ask you about this, however, since you were not around, I could only look for Liu Ziyan. By leveraging his position as your black ink disciple, this guy demanded a lot of resources from me. He said that as long as I could satisfy his demands, he would put in a good word for me in front of you so that I could get the profound yin spirit fruit sooner. He even said that." At this point, he seemed hesitant to continue. "What else did he say?" Gui Liao gritted his teeth. Yang Kai went on to say, "He even said that those demands were not for himself but for you, Sir Gui Liao. It was Sir Territory Lord who told you to get me a profound yin spirit fruit, so I'm sure that you wouldn't be negligent about it. Why would I need his help to begin with? Moreover, it's not like a black ink disciple like him can affect what you do." After I exposed his lies, he became furious out of shame and started a fight with me. "Please stand up for me, sir." A dumbfounded Liu Ziyan gazed at Yang Kai with widened eyes. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5071, "You're quite good." Liu Ziyan hadn't expected Yang Kai to spout such nonsense, and his upright attitude made it look like it was really what had happened, so he quickly refuted, "That's not true." A calm Yang Kai turned to look at him, "It's not true? Why don't you tell everyone why we fought then, Brother Liu? It's not like a newcomer like me would ask for trouble by offending you for no reason." Liu Ziyan snapped, "It's because..." Yang Kai stared fixedly at him, "Go on." Liu Ziyan was rendered speechless. The demand he had mentioned to Yang Kai on this day couldn't be exposed in public. After all, this was just his speculation of Gui Liao's intention. If it was exposed, Gui Liao would be humiliated. As his black ink disciple, Liu Ziyan wouldn't dare to bring trouble to his master. Yang Kai promptly said, "See? He can't say anything. Sir Gui Liao, the truth is right before our eyes. It's not that I wanted to get into a conflict with him, instead, he was the one who went too far. Please stand up for me, sir." Gui Liao stared fixedly at him for a moment, then turned to glare at Liu Ziyan, "Wait." Liu Ziyan was unable to say anything despite feeling aggrieved. He felt apprehensive and terrified as Gui Liao reprimanded him. It all happened because of Yang Kai, but he could only keep the resentment in his heart for the time being and try to get his revenge in the future. Regardless of the cause of the conflict, you two, as black ink disciples, shouldn't have gotten into a fight in Sir Territory Lord's castle and caused so much damage. Both of you have to be punished. Liu Ziyan replied in a shaking voice, "Yes. That will be 3 world spheres from you." Liu Ziyan's face instantly turned pale as he pleaded with Gui Liao, "Sir. If you dare to say anything more, it will be 5 world spheres." Gui Liao snorted. Liu Ziyan instantly kept his mouth shut, but his expression was evidently furious and aggrieved. "As for you," Gui Liao gave Yang Kai a dispassionate look, "it will be 1 world sphere." Even though Yang Kai had no idea what the punishment was, he knew that it was definitely terrible. That was the reason Liu Ziyan turned pale upon hearing it. Yang Kai then cupped his fist, "Sir Gui Liao, I'm the victim." "You're the victim?" Gui Liao sneered, "There's a saying you humans like to use, it takes 2 hands to clap. Both of you are in the wrong for what has happened today. I'm sure Sir Territory Lord will be fine with how I handle this matter." "What's wrong? Are you unwilling?" "Of course I'm unwilling." Yang Kai gritted his teeth for a moment before saying, "I'll accept this punishment, then." Gui Liao stared at him for a while before nodding, "You're quite good." "Many thanks for the compliment, sir," Yang Kai replied unenthusiastically. Enough. Go back to your own places." Gui Liao waved his hand and chastised the feudal lords around him. It was then that the feudal lords left. Seeing that Gui Liao was about to leave, Yang Kai called out to him, "Sir, when will you give me the profound yin spirit fruit as promised by Sir Territory Lord?" Without turning his head, Gui Liao replied, "Just wait. I'll give it to you when I find one." He soon disappeared, but he never said when he would find the fruit. Yang Kai reckoned that after he kicked up a fuss this time, he wouldn't be able to get a profound yin spirit fruit in short order. Nevertheless, he didn't regret his decision. There was no way he would agree to opening up his small universe and letting Gui Liao feed on his world force. With that said, he had to get his hands on a profound yin spirit fruit quickly, otherwise, he wouldn't be able to explain himself when his small universe was fully repaired by the World Tree clone. When he felt a resentful glare on him, Yang Kai turned around and saw Liu Zian glowering at him. He sneered before striding off. Liu Zian was so enraged that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. After the battle, not only was he defeated by his opponent, but he was also punished by Gui Liao. Besides that, his residence was also destroyed. It could be said that he had suffered immense losses. On the other hand, Yang Kai had received a much lighter punishment. There was no way Liu Zian could tolerate this. Nevertheless, Yang Kai wasn't interested in responding to him. This black ink disciple could never be saved, but he didn't feel like killing him either, so he could only let him perish on his own. Not long after Yang Kai returned to his room, a high-rank black ink clansman came over and passed him a world sphere. After saying that it was Gui Liao's order, he left. Certainly, Yang Kai had seen world spheres before. When he was Enyu Yang's subordinate in the past, that guy would bring him to different territories to fight against other black ink disciples. The black ink coins he earned would be used to buy world spheres so that he could cultivate. Enyu Yang had a dream, which was to earn enough black ink coins and head to Black Ink Nest to ascend to become a feudal lord. However, before he could realize his dream, he was killed by Feng Ying. To black ink clansmen, world spheres were cultivation resources, and every piece was costly. The average clansman couldn't afford one. If not for the fact that Yang Kai was powerful enough to win every life and death gambling match he entered, Enyu Yang wouldn't have earned enough black ink coins to keep buying world spheres. Another black ink disciple of Enyu Yang's, D4, once told Yang Kai that the world force in the world spheres was basically collected from the battlefield. After Open Heaven Realm Masters passed away, their small universes would collapse, and their world force would dissipate. World spheres could be used to capture that leaking world force. However, Yang Kai felt that the explanation was unreasonable. Even though a lot of Open Heaven Realm Masters were killed on the battlefield, there shouldn't be enough world force that could fill world spheres to be sold to so many black ink clansmen. After asking about this, D4 told him that black ink disciples could also infuse their world force into the world spheres, which was actually the most common way for the black ink clansmen to create world spheres. Therefore, every black ink disciple was a valuable asset to their master. Black ink disciples were loyal and would never betray their master, and they could tag along when the master went to war. During their free time, black ink disciples could even make world spheres for the masters to cultivate with. As long as the black ink disciples were not killed, the masters would have an unlimited supply of world spheres. Back then, Enyu Yang had bought several empty world spheres and told D4 and the others to infuse their world force into them. However, Yang Kai was Enyu Yang's money tree, so he was spared from this task. He just had to continuously win battles in different arenas. When Yang Kai heard the punishment announced by Gui Liao, he didn't understand what that meant. However, when he saw this empty world sphere, he finally comprehended Gui Liao's intention. It was apparent that he was required to fill this world sphere with his world force. It took a long time to completely fill a world sphere, at least a few months given Yang Kai's 7th Order Open Heaven Realm strength. Not only was this time-consuming, but it would also exhaust his heritage. Certainly, Yang Kai wasn't willing to do such a thing. Why would he make a world sphere for Gui Liao when the latter wasn't even willing to give him a profound yin spirit fruit? Nevertheless, since he had offended Gui Liao, life would be hard for him in the future. At the very least, before He Yuan left the Black Ink Nest years later, he had to be cautious so that Gui Liao wouldn't have a reason to punish him. Moreover, he had to come up with a way to complete his true objective, which was to find out the artifact refining Grandmaster's identity and whereabouts. Having said that, the most pressing issue for him was to obtain a profound yin spirit fruit. Since he couldn't pin his hopes on Gui Liao, he had to look for a different way to achieve his goal. After giving it a thought, Yang Kai rose from the chair and left his room. It was business as usual inside the castle. The passing Black Ink clansmen would look curiously at him. After all, they had never seen a new Black Ink disciple who had the guts to get into a fight in the castle. Yang Kai randomly caught a Black Ink clansman and asked, "Do you know where Jia Jiyu lives?" The Black Ink clansman was puzzled. Who is that? Even though Jia Jiyu was a feudal lord, there were many feudal lords in He Yuan's territory. Naturally, the Black Ink clansman in the castle couldn't possibly know all the feudal lords. Yang Kai didn't give up though and kept asking around. After asking more than a dozen Black Ink clansmen the same question, he finally got some clues. He found a Black Ink clansman who knew a little about Jia Jiyu. He had no idea where he lived exactly, but he told Yang Kai to look for him in a particular area in the territory. A feudal lord like Jia Jiyu would generally look for a place outside of the city to establish their own home. This was permitted by He Yuan and the other territory lords. However, if one was incapable of acquiring a Black Ink nest, he wouldn't really have a territory to his name. After thanking him, Yang Kai shuffled in that direction. No one stopped him along the way. It seemed that after the incident earlier, Gui Liao wasn't ready to complicate the matter. The universe fragment that was as large as a universe world was directly owned by He Yuan, and the surrounding region occupied by his subordinate feudal lords was also considered his territory. The location of the Black Ink nest and the castle were the center of the universe fragment. It could be considered the most prosperous place in the universe fragment. Flying was not prohibited in the city, so after leaving the castle, Yang Kai directly shot into the sky where he met a lot of passing Black Ink clansmen. When the Black Ink clansmen detected his human, they looked curiously at him. However, no one made things difficult for him or had their eyes on him. After all, he was a 7th Order Open Heaven Realm Master, so not just any Black Ink clansman could capture him. Soon, Yang Kai left this big city. After flying a few hundred kilometers, he saw a manor below him. He speculated that it was a feudal lord's territory. Without hesitation, he descended towards the manor, not hiding his aura. Before he even landed, a burly figure shot out from somewhere of the manor and came to him. He soon stopped in front of Yang Kai and examined him. With a surprised expression, he asked, "A 7th Order Black Ink disciple?" There were only a small number of 7th Order Black Ink disciples on this universe fragment, and he had met most of them before, but he wasn't aware of Yang Kai's existence, which made him feel curious. "I'm sorry for disturbing you." Yang Kai cupped his fist. "Sir, do you know where Sir Jia Jiyu lives?" Instead of answering his question, the feudal lord asked, "Whose Black Ink disciple are you? Why are you here?" Yang Kai replied politely, "I'm Sir Territory Lord's Black Ink disciple. Sir Gui Liao told me to look for Jia Jiyu as there's a matter he has to discuss with him." Upon learning about his identity, the feudal lord said, "So, you're the new Black Ink disciple that Sir Territory Lord has taken on. It's no wonder I had never seen you before." Marshall Peak, Chapter 5072, A Way to Make Money. Upon hearing that, Yang Kai asked curiously, "Does everyone know about it now?" The feudal lord chuckled. "It's only natural to pay attention to Sir Territory Lord's affairs." Upon hearing the reason behind it, Yang Kai nodded, "I see." The feudal lord's expression turned milder after he found out that Yang Kai was He Yuan's Black Ink disciple, and he replied, "If you're looking for Jia Jiyu, just head in that direction. According to human measurements, he lives in a place that is 3,000 kilometers away from here." After looking in the same direction, Yang Kai cupped his fist. "Many thanks." He then bid the feudal lord farewell and shot in that direction. It took him a short moment to move across 3,000 kilometers. From afar, Yang Kai could see a castle that was similar to He Yuan's that was built on an island. There were no traces of other Black Ink clan estates within a 100-kilometer radius. If he wasn't mistaken, this should be Jia Gu's residence. Yang Kai landed in front of the castle and activated his divine sense. There were a lot of Black Ink clansmen inside, but they were all insignificant low-rank Black Ink clansmen, with high-rank Black Ink clansmen being quite rare. There was an aura that Yang Kai was familiar with in the deepest part of the castle, Jia Jiyu. Upon confirming that the other party really resided here, Yang Kai called out, "Brother Jia Jiyu." In an instant, all the Black Ink clansmen in the castle were shocked as they looked in the same direction. Jia Jiyu, who was recuperating, was alerted as he opened his eyes and stared out. A moment later, the gates were opened as Jia Jiyu stepped out of the castle and looked at Yang Kai with surprise. Why are you here? Yang Kai cupped his fist and smiled. I've come all the way here to visit you, brother Jia Jiyu. I hope I haven't bothered you. Jia Jiyu nodded. Come in first. After entering the castle, they arrived at a room and took seats. Has Sir Territory Lord issued any orders? Jia Jiyu asked. He reckoned that a Black Ink disciple usually wouldn't dare to come all the way here on his own. Yang Kai probably had received a secret order from the Territory Lord. However, Yang Kai shook his head. Sir Territory Lord has not shown up since he entered the Black Ink nest. I heard that it would take him several years to recuperate. Jia Jiyu was evidently relieved upon learning that it wasn't He Yuan who told Yang Kai to look for him. The reason I've come here to visit you is that I need your help. Yang Kai expressed his purpose for the visit. Jia Jiyu frowned. What can I help you with? Although Yang Kai was a Black Ink disciple treasured by He Yuan, he was still a Black Ink disciple. Jia Jiyu was willing to be on good terms with him, but he wouldn't fawn over him, so he would of course find out what help Yang Kai needed before he would make a decision. Yang Kai let out a sigh and went on to say, I'd like to ask you if there is a way I can earn money in Black Ink Clan's territory. Earn money? Jia Jiyu was surprised. Indeed, Yang Kai coughed. You know, when human soldiers go to war, we don't bring a lot of resources with us. I was enlightened by Sir Territory Lord not long ago, so I only have a few resources with me. Now that my small universe is damaged, I need a profound yin spirit fruit to repair it, and I need resources to cultivate as well. However, since Sir Territory Lord is recuperating in the Black Ink nest, I have no means to purchase anything. I can neither repair my small universe nor cultivate in this state. A puzzled Jia Jiyu asked, profound yin spirit fruit? Before Sir Territory Lord started recuperating, he told Sir Gui Liao to get one for you. Given Sir Gui Liao's status, it shouldn't be hard for him to get a profound yin spirit fruit. Perhaps, Yang Kai nodded. However, I've offended Sir Gui Liao, so he doesn't seem willing to give it to me now. Jia Jiyu was shocked upon hearing that. You offended Sir Gui Liao? What happened? A helpless Yang Kai told Jia Jiyu about what had happened between Liu Zi and him. Jia Jiyu gazed at him with a weird expression. You offended Sir Gui Liao just because of that? He seemed to think that it was fine to agree to Gui Liao's demand, so he didn't understand why Yang Kai turned him down. Yang Kai spread his palms. You're also aware that I sacrificed a part of my small universe twice in the recent battle. My strength has plunged because of the damage to my foundation, so if I still let Sir Gui Liao feed on my small universe, my order might drop. When that happens, I will become useless to Sir Territory Lord. By then, I will most likely be discarded. You have a point, Jia Jiyu nodded. So, I had no choice but to disappoint Sir Gui Liao. However, since that is the case, I can't hope to get a profound yin spirit fruit from him. Jia Jiyu frowned. I don't think so. He wouldn't dare to disobey Sir Territory Lord's order, but you might need to wait a little longer. Yang Kai internally cried that he couldn't possibly wait. The World Tree clone was continuously repairing his small universe, so if he couldn't obtain a profound yin spirit fruit to cover up this process, he would be exposed. Jia Jiyu placated him by saying, Don't worry. Before Sir Territory Lord leaves the Black Ink nest, Sir Gui Liao will get you a profound yin spirit fruit. Yang Kai shook his head. I'd rather come up with a way to get a profound yin spirit fruit myself. I suppose the fruits are for sale in the city. Jia Jiyu replied, Yes, but they've always been expensive. They cost a lot of Black Ink coins. That's why I've come here to ask for a way to make money. Can you enlighten me, brother Jia Jiyu? Yang Kai looked humbly at him. Jia Jiyu fell into a dilemma. Since such an incident had happened, he would offend Gui Liao by lending Yang Kai a hand, and this was obviously not worth it just to help a mere Black Ink disciple. Moreover, he didn't know any way he could make money. Even if he did, he wouldn't want to share it with Yang Kai. As Yang Kai observed his expression, he said, Don't worry, brother Jia Jiyu. If there's a proper way that allows me to earn Black Ink coins, I'll not forget your assistance and properly compensate you. Jia Jiyu appeared tempted at the prospect of making a profit, so after giving it a thought, he said, Given your situation, there's indeed a way. Yang Kai's eyes brightened. Oh? What is it? Jarjiyu said. Do you know world spheres? I can give you some money to buy some empty world spheres, then you can infuse your world force into them and sell them. Each world sphere will earn you a lot of black ink coins. Just by selling 10 world spheres, you'll have enough money to buy a profound yin spirit fruit. Yang Kai's brow twitched as he hadn't expected Jarjiyu to mention this method, so he shook his head. Please stop pulling my leg, brother Jarjiyu. I can't even cultivate now, so how am I supposed to infuse my world force into the world spheres? If I do that, I'll definitely see my order regress. You have a point. I suppose this is what your humans call killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. Yang Kai thought that this guy had misused the idiom, but he didn't bother to correct him and simply said, I heard that there's a blood arena in the city. You want to engage in a life-or-death fight with others? Jarjiyu instantly realized his intention. Yang Kai nodded. However, I'll need a black ink clansman to bring me there. Taking everything into consideration, I think that you're the most suitable person to help me with it. If you can go there and bet against the others, I'll not disappoint you. When the time comes, I'll share half the profit with you. Jarjiyu shook his head. That's indeed a good way, but it won't work for you. Why not? Yang Kai was perplexed. Jarjiyu explained, since it's a life-or-death fight, both parties have to be equally matched. You are a 7th Order master, so there are no suitable opponents for you in the blood arena. The Black Ink disciples there are all below the 7th Order. After giving it a thought, Yang Kai realized that he really hadn't seen any 7th Order Open Heaven Realm masters fighting in the blood arenas when he followed Enyu Yang around. He soon realized the reasons behind this. First of all, the battle between two 7th Order masters would be too destructive. Secondly, there were only a small number of 7th Order Black Ink disciples. Since they were rare, the Black Ink clansmen wouldn't let them go to the blood arena and put their lives at risk. Even though Yang Kai's idea was not feasible, he was well prepared. He then let out a sigh. It seems that I have no choice but to make use of my hobby. Jarjiyu asked curiously, hobby? What do you mean? Yang Kai explained, I realized this some time ago on the battlefield. It seems that Black Ink clansmen rarely use artifacts to fight. Even feudal lords don't use artifacts, let alone the high-rank and low-rank clansmen. It seems that you all are used to fighting with humans using only Black Ink strength and secret techniques. Jarjiyu nodded. To us, Black Ink strength is the source of our powers, just like world force is to humans. Although we're physically stronger than humans, we know nothing about the Tao of artifact refining. The artifacts we have were all snatched from humans or refined by Black Ink disciples, so they're quite rare. However, most artifacts we snatch from the humans are not suitable for us to use. Yang Kai asked, do you have your own artifact, brother Jarjiyu? Jarjiyu shook his head. I once used a sword I obtained from a human, but that thing's grade was too low, and it didn't suit me. I threw it away after using it a couple times. After pondering on it for a moment, Yang Kai reckoned that given Jargu's size, it would be akin to holding a knife for him when he grabbed a human sword. The weapon wouldn't be useful for him on the battlefield. With his brow arched, Yang Kai asked, what if I refined an artifact that was tailored to you? Jarjiyu was startled for a moment. You know how to make artifacts? I know a thing or two. You really know how to refine artifacts? Jarjiyu was astounded. Are you what the humans call an artifact refiner? Yang Kai put on a faint smile. I supposed I could be considered an artifact refiner. Jarjiyu sized him up while feeling doubtful. Is that what you mean when you said you wanted to monetize your hobby? Yes. Yang Kai frowned. Don't you believe me, brother Jarjiyu? Jarjiyu shook his head. It's not that I don't believe you. I'm just surprised that you're an artifact refiner. Humans are always highly protective of their artifact refiners. Why did you appear on the battlefield? Yang Kai explained, artifact refining really is just a hobby for me, so I haven't spent a lot of time practicing it. In fact, not many humans are aware that I'm an artifact refiner as I haven't made anything since I ascended to the open heaven realm. However, I should still be able to make some simple artifacts. He then leaned forward and spoke in a tempting voice. Do you want to give it a try, brother Jarjiyu? With a suitable artifact, you'll be more powerful on the battlefield. Certainly, Jia Jiyu couldn't resist such a temptation, so he rose from the chair and declared, "Come with me." Martial Peak, Chapter 5073, Enhancing a Giant Halberd. Yang Kai followed Jia Jiyu to the deepest part of the castle. After they descended nearly 3 kilometers, they arrived at a huge cave where hot air blew right at their faces. As Yang Kai lifted his head and was surprised by what he saw. That was because there was natural earth fire in his underground cave. The omnipresent hot air billowed from that earth fire. In this cave, there were some traces of restrictions set up by humans, and the entire cave was covered with a grand array. The center of the grand array was where the earth fire gathered. There were also some miscellaneous materials strewn around the cave. It seemed that many of the materials had been used here before. Yang Kai frowned with a puzzled expression. Jia Jiyu shuffled towards the center of the grand array. His aura seemed to have triggered the grand array's power, and the earth fire, which was hot enough to melt metal, came right at him. Ignoring it, Jia Jiyu covered his hand with black ink strength and extended it into the earth fire. When he retracted his hand from the earth fire, he was holding something. He walked away from the center of the grand array and passed the thing to Yang Kai. "Look at this." Yang Kai took it with both hands and instantly felt a hefty weight. Even with his strength, his arms still sank slightly, which went to show how heavy this thing was. It was a giant halberd that was about 15 meters in length and as thick as a human leg. This giant halberd looked awkward in Yang Kai's hands, but it did suit Jia Gu's size quite well. Yang Kai examined the giant halberd in shock. As he scanned it with his divine sense, he soon realized something. Was this created by a human artifact refiner? He then turned to look at Jia Jiyu in astonishment. "Where did you get it?" Given his eyesight, he could see that even though this giant halberd was made by a human artifact refiner, it wasn't fully refined. It was more like a half-finished prototype. This kind of weapon wouldn't be useful on the battlefield, as any open heaven realm master could easily destroy it. "I used to have a black ink disciple who knew a little about artifact refining. He spent a lot of time and resources creating this thing for me." Yang Kai was stunned, as he hadn't expected that to be the story behind it. "It was because of his suggestion that I decided to build my estate here. This place has an earth fire he needed for artifact refining so that he could make full use of his skills. Unfortunately, before he could finish refining this thing, Before that, he left behind a setup and told me to nurture this thing in the earth fire. He said that perhaps it would be usable after 100 years or so." Upon hearing that, Yang Kai shook his head. "It's useless. Since the foundation isn't solid, it's pointless to keep nourishing it." Jia Jiyu arched his brow. "What do you mean?" Yang Kai explained, "I have no idea what kind of achievements your former black ink disciple had in the Tao of artifact refining, but this thing looks mediocre to me. The foundation of this artifact has been set, so even if it is nurtured for 100 years, you will only obtain a low-rank artifact." Jia Gu's eyes brightened. "Are you saying that you're more skillful than he was in artifact refining?" Yang Kai put on a proud smile. "Indeed." An agitated Jia Jiyu asked, "If you were to refine it, what do you think you can make out of it?" After a moment of deliberation, Yang Kai replied, "The artifacts used by humans are categorized into low, mid, and high, which correspond to the ranks of the open heaven realm. People who can make high-rank artifacts are called artifact refining grandmasters. My artifact refining skills are average, so I'm far from being a grandmaster. Nevertheless, it won't be hard for me to make mid-rank artifacts." Yang Kai had spent 10 years learning artifact refining, and the one who taught him was Chai Hao, who came from Divine Cauldron Cave Heaven. Chai Jiao was the 6th disciple of Dongguoren Ping, and even though he wasn't as skillful as a great grandmaster like Dongguoren Ping, he was still a grandmaster. With such a person as a teacher, anyone would grow a lot regardless of how terrible their aptitude was. Moreover, there were many similarities between artifact refining and the alchemic Tao. Additionally, Yang Kai was a 7th-order open heaven realm master with outstanding strength and aptitude. During the 10 years he had spent learning artifact refining from Chai Hao, his skills improved greatly. Now, his Tao of artifact refining had reached the 3rd level of comprehension, taking the initial steps. However, due to the limit of his aptitude in this Tao, It was destined that Yang Kai wouldn't achieve great things in artifact refining. Perhaps he would be able to refine high-rank artifacts one day if he kept improving his skills, which would make him a grandmaster. Nevertheless, that would be the limit he could never break through in his lifetime. He could never become a great grandmaster like Dong Guo and Ping. As Yang Kai had learned from a grandmaster from Divine Cauldron Cave Heaven, regardless of his level of artifact refining now, his vision was much sharper than that of the average artifact refiner. He could clearly see the weaknesses in this giant halberd. He hadn't expected that Jia Jiyu had a subordinate who was an artifact refiner in the past. Nevertheless, judging from the way this giant halberd was made, it was safe to assume that the artifact refiner who refined it was not very accomplished in this Dao, and since he wasn't around, he had probably lost his life on the battlefield. Fortunately, the artifact refiner had at least built a setup to allow the giant halberd to be nourished in the earthfire, so it was possible that Jia Jiyu could obtain a low-rank artifact in 100 years. Nonetheless, as a feudal lord, it would be of no help to him to use a low-rank artifact in combat. Meanwhile, Jia Jiyu became increasingly excited. "You must not lie to me." Yang Kai tiled his head and asked, "Why would I lie to you?" "Prove it to me, then. Make me an artifact based on this one here. I'll provide all the materials you need. If you succeed, I'll give you a reward." "Fair enough." Yang Kai directly agreed to it. This was the reason he had come all the way here in the first place, but he hadn't expected that things would go so smoothly. Moreover, there was already an environment that an artifact refiner needed. It could be said that Yang Kai had acquired the inheritance left behind by Jia Gu's former black ink disciple. As he felt the giant halberd with his hands and examined it, Yang Kai commented, "It would be wasteful to create an entirely new weapon. Although this thing is a bit shoddy, and its form has been finalized, the materials used are precious. I just need to enhance it." "What do you need?" "I'll prepare them for you," Jia Jiyu asked, high-spirited. Yang Kai replied, "Just get me some cultivation materials." "You only need those things?" Jia Jiyu was surprised. Yang Kai nodded. This wasn't difficult. Jia Jiyu fished out a space ring and passed it to Yang Kai. "Do you think these are enough?" After taking it, Yang Kai realized that there were a lot of open heaven pills and several sets of 5th order and 6th order materials. The origins of these 5th order and 6th order materials were untraceable. However, only humans could refine open heaven pills, and they were only useful to humans. It was apparent that Jia Jiyu had acquired these pills from the battlefield. Judging from the number of open heaven pills in this ring, Yang Kai reckoned that Jia Jiyu had killed quite a lot of human soldiers. While forcing himself to remain calm, Yang Kai put away the space ring and examined the grand array in this cave. He then turned to Jia Jiyu. "Where's the array plate that's used to control this grand array?" Jia Jiyu landed a slap on his own forehead. "Right." Upon finishing his words, he tossed an array plate at Yang Kai, who took it and started refining it. It wasn't difficult to refine this thing, so it only took Yang Kai a dozen breaths to finish. With this token in possession, he had full control over the grand array in this place. With the help of the earthfire in this place, he would achieve twice the results with only half the effort. When everything was prepared, Yang Kai extended his hand and summoned out a glittering silver hammer. This nameless hammer was given to him by Chai Hao. It was used by Chai Hao when he was younger, but it fell into disuse after his skills improved and he acquired a better one. If not for the fact that Yang Kai was somewhat talented in the Dao of artifact refining, and that he was eager to learn, Chai Hao wouldn't have given this sentimental hammer to him. Although this thing was no longer useful to Chai Hao, it was a symbol of his growth that carried special meaning with it. While it was useless to Chai Hao, it was precious to Yang Kai, and given his level of artifact refining, he could only utilize a small part of its full potential. It was also pointless for him to use better tools as he couldn't bring out their strength with his low comprehension. Yang Kai gently jabbed the hefty giant halberd into the ground so that it stood straight. Jia Jiyu could see that Yang Kai raised the hammer in his hands and forcefully struck the giant halberd. The moment the hammer was lifted, the earth fire in the cave madly streamed into the hammer, making the tool glow red. A deafening clang was then heard. A strike of such intensity should have destroyed the entire cave, But what was strange was that all the force stayed within the giant halberd without any of it escaping from the weapon. This was apparently because Yang Kai had full control over his strength, allowing him to put all of it to use. Jia Jiyu arched his brow at the sight. For all intents and purposes, a feudal lord was equivalent to a seventh-order human master. However, Jia Jiyu reckoned that he didn't have such precise control over his strength. This went to show the vast difference in power between Yang Kai and himself, and he reckoned that it was no wonder Yang Kai was able to kill so many Black Ink clansmen on his own. However, what he saw made him feel puzzled. In the past, he had observed from the side when his Black Ink disciple created some artifacts. Although he knew nothing about the Tao of artifact refining, he could see that the way his Black Ink disciple refined artifacts had a certain beauty and abstrusity to it. On the other hand, Yang Kai's approach was brutal and blunt. It was as though he was just striking with all his might. While Jia Jiyu was perplexed, he heard another clang the next instant. A series of clangs were continuously heard, and each time Yang Kai wielded the hammer, he seemed to be using all of his strength. The intervals between the strikes were precise, and every time he lifted the hammer, the earth fire in the grand array would be drawn into it, causing it to burn. There were 81 strikes in total as Yang Kai hammered the giant halberd from the tip of its blade to the butt of his shaft. Initially, Jia Jiyu hadn't noticed anything, but as time passed, he could feel that the prototypical giant halberd was going through a kind of transformation. However, the transformation was so vague that he wasn't even sure if he was seeing an illusion. After 81 strikes, Yang Kai's aura had become a bit unstable. He then stored the hammer and sat down with his legs crossed before stuffing a handful of open heaven pills into his mouth. Jia Jiyu knew that Yang Kai's strength had plummeted as a result of the damage to his small universe, so he didn't dare to disturb him as the latter must be exhausted from all the hammering. Martial Peak, Chapter 5074, Thousand Tempering Art. It wasn't until a few days later that Yang Kai's aura stabilized and he opened his eyes. Jia Jiyu took a step forward and imitated the humans by cupping his fist. "Many thanks, Brother Yang." Yang Kai put on a smile. "Don't mention it, Brother Jia Jiyu. Since you trusted me, I naturally wouldn't disappoint you." A puzzled Jia Jiyu asked, "I watched my Black Ink disciple refine artifacts before, but the way he did so was different from you. Why is that?" Yang Kai replied with a smile, "There are many methods of artifact refining in the human world, and each sect has their own distinct artifact refining techniques. I have no idea which sect your Black Ink disciple belonged to, but my method is named Thousand Tempering Art. It's from a very ancient sect in the human world and it's a time-tested method." Upon hearing his explanation, Jia Jiyu nodded. "I see." Yang Kai wasn't just talking nonsense. The method he used to enhance the giant halberd was indeed named Thousand Tempering Art. This kind of technique was especially suitable for refining offensive and defensive artifacts. Even in Divine Cauldron Cave Heaven, only people who held important positions had the right to cultivate it. Yang Kai learned artifact refining from Chai Hao, and with Dongguo and Ping and Zhong Liang giving the order, Chai Hao naturally wouldn't hide anything from him. Yang Kai followed up by saying, "Don't worry about it, Brother Jia Jiyu. You'll understand the result when the weapon is fully refined." Jia Jiyu nodded repeatedly. "I certainly trust you, Brother Yang." "I'll continue, then," Yang Kai said, then got to his feet and lifted the hammer. As he activated his power to draw on the earth fire, he repeatedly struck the giant halberd with all his might. What Jia Jiyu saw was only the surface. Every time Yang Kai struck the giant halberd, he not only activated his power to draw on the earth fire, but also refined the weapon's internal structure. Yang Kai was imbuing the giant halberd with his own strength each time his hammer struck, purifying and tempering it from the inside out. Day after day, deafening clangs were continuously heard coming from the cave. Yang Kai's movements alternated between fast and slow. Sometimes, he would be gentle with the strikes, as though he was just tapping on the weapon, but sometimes, he would strike it rapidly and loudly as a series of clangs were heard in quick succession. He also had to rest from time to time. Initially, Jia Jiyu watched from the side with excitement, but he soon lost patience as time passed. Furthermore, he was injured in the previous battle and hadn't recovered, so he needed time to recuperate. Hence, He would only come over and have a look at the giant halberd every half a month. Each time he did so, he would realize that the weapon had gone through a conspicuous transformation. 3 months later, when Jia Jiyu came over again, he saw that Yang Kai was seated on the ground with his legs crossed, a shiny giant halberd standing straight in front of him. This giant halberd was already much thinner than the original one, though the length remained the same. However, Jia Jiyu could feel that this weapon radiated an imposing aura. If the initial giant halberd was like a pearl that was covered in dust, then this one radiated a dazzling glow after the dust was removed. Jia Gu's breathing became rapid. As he stepped forward, he grabbed the giant halberd and lifted it off the ground. After holding it in his grip, he realized that the weight, length, and thickness of the weapon perfectly matched his build and strength. It was as though the weapon was custom-made for him. There were some abstruse patterns on the shaft of the weapon, and as he infused black ink strength into it, the giant halberd started humming and growling like an awakened beast. The complicated patterns were able to amplify the power of his black ink strength. He couldn't help but put on a bright smile. Even though the Black Ink clan had black ink strength to rely on, and they were physically more robust than the humans, they were incapable of studying artifact refining. They had suffered immense losses during the battles because of the artifacts used by the humans. Humans had all sorts of artifacts that could strike them in the most unexpected ways. As the two races clashed, a lot of Black Ink clansmen were killed by the artifacts that the humans used. If the Black Ink clan were able to make artifacts, the humans would have been destroyed by now. However, even a feudal lord like him found it hard to get an artifact that was useful to him. This couldn't be helped, as the artifacts snatched from the humans were not suitable for him. Although he had a Black Ink disciple who knew a thing or two about artifact refining in the past, that disciple's skills were mediocre. It never crossed his mind that he would obtain such a weapon on this day. With this artifact in his hands, Jia Jiyu could feel that his combat power had increased by 20%. The increase might not be much, but it might save his life and turn a battle around at a critical moment. Furthermore, with such a giant halberd in his possession, he could easily deal a heavy blow to his enemies even without activating his power. He could already imagine how imposing he would be when he next went to war. It seems that you're pleased with this artifact, Brother Jia Jiyu, Yang Kai was suddenly heard saying. When Jia Jiyu turned his head, he saw that Yang Kai had opened his eyes and was smiling at him. Yes, I couldn't be happier with it, Jia Jiyu guffawed. Is this thing fully refined? Yang Kai replied, it was your Black Ink disciple who created this thing, all I did was enhance it. This is already the best I can do with my skills. Is this considered a mid-rank artifact? Jia Jiyu asked. Yes, Yang Kai nodded. Given his eyesight, he reckoned that this giant halberd could be considered a mid-rank artifact. It was still far from being a high-rank artifact, however, it was already a wonderful weapon for Jia Jiyu, which was why he was elated. You have some incredible skills in artifact refining, Brother Yang, Jia Jiyu praised him liberally. The outcome of the artifact refining sessions suggested that Yang Kai was significantly more skillful than his former Black Ink disciple. After all, his Black Ink disciple had spent many years and resources, but he only managed to create a rough prototype. Many thanks for your compliment, Yang Kai replied humbly. After examining the giant halberd in his hands, Jia Jiyu carefully stored it and glanced at Yang Kai. I said that if you're able to fulfill my demand, I would give you a reward. Why don't you tell me what you want? I'll get it for you as long as I'm able to. Yang Kai broke into laughter. Don't you know what I want, Brother Jia Jiyu? Jia Jiyu was startled upon hearing that, but he soon realized what the other man meant. Got it. However, a profound yin spirit fruit is quite costly. Even if I sell all of my assets, I might not be able to afford one. Yang Kai said, if you can help me buy a profound yin spirit fruit, I'll refine an artifact armor for you. The quality will be just as good as this giant halberd. Jia Jiyu fell silent for a moment. He couldn't help feeling tempted when he envisioned himself wearing an artifact armor and holding the giant halberd on the battlefield, so he soon nodded, deal. Yang Kai added, you'll have to provide all the materials for making the artifact armor, though. Of course. When will I get the profound yin spirit fruit? I'll get it for you within 3 days. Upon finishing his words, Jia Jiyu turned around and left. It was apparent that he was trying to come up with a way to buy a profound yin spirit fruit. Even though he was just a feudal lord, he had accumulated some funds over the years, so in truth, it wouldn't be hard for him to purchase a profound yin spirit fruit. After he was gone, Yang Kai let out a breath. His most pressing problem had been solved as he had secured a profound yin spirit fruit. After he was done making artifacts for Jia Jiyu, he hoped to spread the news that he was skillful in artifact refining. That way, he would be able to move on to the next stage of his plan when He Yuan was done recuperating. Jia Jiyu was indeed a man of his word, and just 3 days later, he returned to the cave and passed a wooden box to Yang Kai. After taking the box, Yang Kai opened it and saw a profound yin spirit fruit inside. Many thanks, brother Jia Jiyu. Yang Kai cupped his fist. Jia Jiyu waved his hand. There's no need to thank me for fulfilling a deal. You should quickly refine this profound yin spirit fruit and repair your small universe. That's what I thought as well. I'll not disturb you for now. Just notify me when you're ready. Yang Kai nodded. Jia Jiyu then turned around and left the place. It wasn't until Jia Jiyu was out of sight that Yang Kai fished out the profound yin spirit fruit. Even though the World Tree clone was continuously repairing his small universe, and there were already some results, the progress was quite slow. He didn't have so much time to spare, and with the help of this profound yin spirit fruit, he reckoned that his small universe would recover much more quickly. Without hesitation, he stuffed the profound yin spirit fruit into his mouth and started refining it. Soon, a warm stream of energy rose from his stomach and penetrated his small universe. As the medicinal efficacies of the profound yin spirit fruit circulated, the damaged part in his small universe was being repaired at an incredible pace. The average cultivator wouldn't experience such a rapid result after ingesting this spirit fruit. The reason Yang Kai's small universe could heal quickly was that he also had the help of the World Tree's clone. Even so, it still took him 3 months to finish. The moment his small universe became complete again, Yang Kai felt his aura surging. He was overwhelmed with a sense of ecstasy. The damage to his small universe made him feel as if something was missing. Be it activating his power or cultivating, he had been greatly affected. Now that his small universe was complete again, the sense of discomfort had faded away. In the battle against Liu Zi and previously, even though he managed to gain the upper hand, it took him quite some time and effort to defeat the other party. If he were to fight against Liu Zi now, Yang Kai had the confidence to subdue him in just a few moves. Although the damage to his small universe had been repaired, the loss of heritage from sacrificing pieces of his small universe had to be made up slowly. There was no rush to do so though, as the cultivation of an open heaven realm master was all about accumulation over the long term. Yang Kai's speed of refining materials was already much greater than that of an average 7th order open heaven realm master, and the living beings in his small universe continuously strengthened his heritage, so he would still be able to ascend to the 8th order at an unimaginable speed. Only by ascending to the 8th order would he be considered an important piece on the Black Ink battlefield. Meanwhile, the 9th order open heaven realm masters were the pillars of strength in their respective great passes. After examining himself and confirming that there was no problem, Yang Kai activated his divine sense. Soon, Jia Gu's burly figure came into sight as he gazed at him in shock. You've recovered? He could feel that Yang Kai was different now. In the past, he always had a feeling that Yang Kai was somehow incomplete, but that feeling was now gone. It suggested his small universe had been fully repaired. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5075, Viable Business. Many thanks for your assistance, brother Jia Jiyu. Yang Kai cupped his fist. Jia Jiyu waved his hand. Don't mention it, brother Yang. You deserved that spirit fruit. Yang Kai said, now that my small universe is fully repaired, I can start refining an artifact armor for you. Are you ready? Jia Jiyu replied, I've prepared some materials, but I'm not sure if they're enough. Have a look. Upon finishing his words, he fished out a space ring. After taking it, Yang Kai looked into it with his divine sense and realized that there were many precious items inside, mainly rare resources and ores. Is it enough? I can get more materials if you want, Jia Jiyu asked fervently. It's enough. Yang Kai put away the space ring. I'll start refining the artifact armor for you immediately. While I'm working, I would prefer not to be disturbed. I'll inform you when it's complete. After agreeing, Jia Jiyu left. When Yang Kai was learning the Tao of artifact refining in Blue Sky Pass, he had made some artifact armors. However, they were subpar items in Chai Hao's opinion. After all, they were not refined well enough for combat use. They would be putting the human soldiers' lives at risk by letting them wear such artifact armor and going to war. Although such artifacts were not good enough for humans, they would be invaluable to the Black Ink clan. Therefore, Yang Kai didn't have to produce a high-quality artifact, he just had to make sure that the artifact armor was as good as the giant halberd. Given his mastery in artifact refining now, he had the confidence to achieve this. It took him 3 months to enhance the giant halberd, however, it only took him 2 months to create an artifact armor from scratch. There were 2 reasons why it took him a shorter time. First of all, his small universe had been fully repaired, so he had better control over his own power. Secondly, during the process of artifact refining, his skills had also improved significantly. Although he had spent 10 years studying artifact refining in Blue Sky Pass, it wasn't enough time for Yang Kai to really hone his skills. It required a much longer period of work and experience for anyone to become a master in artifact refining. During the 10 years of training, Chai Hao had taught Yang Kai everything he knew about the Tao of artifact refining until there was nothing else he could teach him. Of course, this did not mean that Yang Kai was already on par with Chai Hao when it came to his mastery of artifact refining. It would take a person hundreds, if not thousands of years of studying and practicing artifact refining in order to become a grandmaster like Chai Hao. However, Chai Hao was no longer able to teach him anything else, for Yang Kai had already grasped all the theoretical knowledge that was passed down to him. As for how far he would go in the Tao of artifact refining, that would depend on his own efforts and opportunities. Growth could only be achieved by continuously practicing artifact refining. Therefore, when Yang Kai got around to refining this artifact armor, his mastery of artifact refining was already much better than before, and after he was done, his skills improved again. The quality of the artifact armor he had made was obviously higher than that of the giant halberd, and the glow radiating from the armor suggested that the artifact was quite extraordinary. He then released his divine sense to inform Jia Jiyu about it. Upon his arrival, Jia Jiyu eagerly put on the artifact armor and realized that it perfectly fit him. The artifact armor covered his vital parts like the chest, abdomen, and back very well. More importantly, it made him look even more imposing than normal. He was evidently elated. With the artifact armor and the giant halberd in possession, Jia Jiyu felt that his combat capabilities had increased by 30 to 40%. When he was in a one-on-one fight against a 7th-order Open Heaven Realm Master in the past, he wouldn't be a match for them. However, with these 2 artifacts in possession, he believed that he could easily defeat any average 7th-order human now. It was the first time he realized that the artifacts made by humans could increase a person's strength so tremendously, and his emotions undulated. On the battlefield, the humans were able to activate the powers of artifacts while the Black Ink clan could only fight with their fists. It was no wonder that the Black Ink clan would always suffer huge losses in each battle, even those that they eventually won. It was because they didn't have any artifacts with them, while practically all humans had 1 or 2 artifacts on them. If the Black Ink clan could be equipped with these artifacts, they would be able to destroy the human race with ease. Are you satisfied with it, Brother Jia Jiyu? Yang Kai suddenly asked. I couldn't be happier, Jia Jiyu nodded repeatedly, grinning from ear to ear. I'm glad that I haven't disappointed you. Yang Kai got to his feet. Since I have finished it, I'll take my leave. Jia Jiyu was astounded. Where are you going? Yang Kai replied, well, I'm going back to Sir Territory Lord's castle. It's been quite some time since I left the castle. I came all the way here to get a profound yin spirit fruit, and since my goal has been achieved, and I've helped you make 2 artifacts, it's time I went back. There's no hurry to leave. Jia Jiyu quickly stopped him. A puzzled Yang Kai gazed at him and asked, is there anything else, Brother Jia Jiyu? After hesitating for a moment, Jia Jiyu replied, Brother Yang, just some time ago, you asked me how you could make money. I've given it a thought, and I think there's a good opportunity now. Yang Kai broke into laughter. Are you going to tell me that I can earn money by helping other Black Ink clansmen refine artifacts? Yes. Jar Gu nodded with a solemn expression. There's no doubt that you're skilled in artifact refining, and if you refine artifacts for other Black Ink clansmen, you'll be able to earn a lot of Black Ink coins. Wasn't that your initial intention? Yang Kai waved his hand. The reason I helped you make artifacts was that I wanted to get a profound yin spirit fruit. Now that my small universe is complete, there's no reason for me to keep doing it. It takes a lot of time and energy to refine artifacts, and I would prefer to focus on the martial Dao so that I'll be useful to Sir Territory Lord when I go to battle with him. Jar Gu shook his head. That's not right, Brother Yang. By cultivating, you're just increasing your own power. However, if you can make artifacts for the Black Ink clan, you'll help lots of people grow stronger, and that will help Sir Territory Lord as well. I'm sure he'd be more than willing to see you refine artifacts for the Black Ink clan. You have a point, but, Brother Yang, you need resources to cultivate, right? However, do you have any of such resources with you now? Yang Kai parted his lips as he seemed to be lost for words. A moment later, he replied dejectedly, I don't. See. Jar Gu appeared sincere. Humans always say that one must sharpen their tools before they get to work. In order to cultivate, you need to buy a lot of resources, but what can you do without any Black Ink coins? By refining artifacts for others, you'll be rewarded handsomely. The corner of Yang Kai's mouth twitched. You're indeed knowledgeable, Brother Jar Gu. You seem familiar with many sayings humans use. Jar Gu replied with a smile, I learned those sayings from my previous Black Ink disciple. In any case, I've been sincere with you, and I don't intend to harm you in any way. I know. Yang Kai scowled and fell into his thoughts. Jar Gu said, what's there to consider? If you're willing to refine artifacts for others, I'll do all the heavy lifting for you. I'm friends with a lot of feudal lords, so I'm sure they're interested in getting their own artifacts. Yang Kai replied hesitantly, it's been a long time since I left the castle. If I don't go back, I'm worried that Sir Gui Liao will punish me. Jar Gu said, you're Sir Territory Lord's Black Ink disciple. Since he's not around, no one else can boss you around, including Sir Gui Liao. Well, Yang Kai appeared tempted. If I listen to you and help those feudal lords make artifacts while they provide all the materials, how much should I charge them? Jar Gu instantly replied, you'll be able to charge 10,000 Black Ink coins for each artifact. His prompt reply suggested that he had been pondering on this issue for quite some time. Yang Kai was secretly shocked by Jar Gu's greed. Jar Gu might think that he didn't know the purchasing power of Black Ink coins, but when he stayed by Nu Yang's side in the past, he already gained some understanding of the value of Black Ink coins. According to his estimation, if there was a conversation rate between Black Ink coins and open heaven pills, one Black Ink coin would be worth 10,000 open heaven pills. In other words, 10,000 Black Ink coins would be worth 100 million open heaven pills, which was about enough to purchase a full set of sixth-order materials. Of course, this was only a rough estimate as no one had ever used Black Ink coins to trade for open heaven pills before, but the conversion rate should be around there. A set of sixth-order materials obviously didn't matter to Yang Kai, but it was a lot of money for a feudal lord who didn't own his own estate. Despite knowing this full well, Yang Kai pretended to know nothing and asked, what can I buy with 10,000 Black Ink coins? Jar Gu replied in a serious tone, a set of sixth-order materials. Yang Kai gasped as he appeared astonished. Jar Gu persuaded him by saying, it's a great business idea. You just have to make a few artifacts for others, and you won't have to worry about getting resources anymore. Yang Kai instantly made a decision, it's indeed a viable business. Upon successfully persuading the other man, Jar Gu guffawed, have you agreed to it, then? Yang Kai nodded, why wouldn't I agree to such a great business idea? However, in order to refine artifacts, I'll need to use the Earthfire here. Also, Brother Jar Gu will have to help me contact those feudal lords. It wouldn't be appropriate for a Black Ink disciple like me to directly contact them. Don't worry. I'll handle everything for you. Jar Gu appeared ready to make this business a success. Yang Kai was certainly aware of the other man's intentions, so he nodded, good, we can split the profits evenly from selling the artifacts. Jar Gu was shocked upon hearing that. No, that's too much. You're the one doing all the hard work, and the earth fire is practically inexhaustible. I don't deserve 50% of the profit. I'll just take 30% of it. Young Kai was startled as it was the first time he saw someone not wanting to earn more when it was offered to them. Nevertheless, he wouldn't waste time persuading him, so he nodded and said, "In that case, do we have an agreement?" "We do," Jia Jiyu nodded firmly. They smiled at each other as they were ready to make a lot of money. Since an agreement had been reached, Jia Jiyu immediately got to work. After telling young Kai to get some rest in the castle, he ordered his subordinates to spread out in various different directions. 3 days later, while young Kai was cultivating, he felt the aura of a feudal lord approaching. The person soon arrived and landed in front of Jia Gu's castle. Then, Jia Gu's subordinate led him inside. The arrival of this feudal lord was just the beginning. In the following half a month, more and more feudal lords came over. Young Kai did some calculations and realized there were more than 10 feudal lords present now. It seemed that Jia Jiyu was on good terms with quite a number of feudal lords. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5076, Why don't you just rob us instead? More than 10 feudal lords were led to the reception hall in the castle and were seated. Jia Jiyu took the head seat and had some small talk with all of them. The feudal lords here were all familiar with each other. After all, they lived in He Yuan's territory, so they had come into contact with one another before. They were naturally curious about why Jia Jiyu suddenly invited them to this place, and even after a brief chat, no one knew of the reason. When Jia Jiyu was asked about it, he just acted mysterious by smiling in silence. It wasn't until the last feudal lord arrived and took his seat in the grand hall that Jia Jiyu gently clapped his hands to attract everyone's attention. Then, he rose from the chair and said with a smile, "I'm sure you're all curious about why I've invited you over. It's simple. I want to show you 2 items." A feudal lord, whose figure was especially burly, asked impatiently, "What items are you talking about?" Another feudal lord, who had wings on his back, said, "Jia Jiyu, stop stalling and get on with it. We have no time to waste." Upon hearing that, Jia Jiyu put on a smile, "See for yourselves." As he spoke, he stepped forward. By the time he finished speaking, he was already standing in the center of the grand hall. In front of everyone's eyes, he extended his hand into the void and pulled out a giant halberd that was 15 meters long. At the same time, he took off his shirt and revealed an artifact armor that covered the upper half of his body. The artifact armor and the giant halberd radiated a dazzling glow, which went to show that they were no ordinary artifacts. More importantly, the artifact armor and the giant halberd seemed to be custom-made for Jia Jiyu as they fit him perfectly. Clad in a piece of armor and holding a halberd, Jia Jiyu looked quite imposing. He appeared especially outstanding among these feudal lords. They were all instantly attracted to him with shocked expressions. Given these feudal lords' eyesight, they could see that both the giant halberd and the artifact armor were no ordinary artifacts. They were undoubtedly made by a skilled human artifact refiner. While remaining on the spot, Jia Jiyu looked around and was pleased with their reactions. In fact, if he hadn't known the background of these 2 artifacts, he would have sported the same expression if he saw a feudal lord who possessed them. The burly feudal lord, who spoke earlier, was so shocked that he stood straight up and walked up to Jia Jiyu. After examining the artifacts, he knocked on the artifact armor and nodded lightly, astounding. "This thing can withstand an all-out attack from me." Jia Jiyu flashed a smile at him. "This is truly a life-saving treasure if it can take an all-out strike from someone whose power is equivalent to a feudal lord. Since it could bear an all-out strike from a feudal lord, it could also save the wearer from a 7th-order human's all-out attack." The feudal lord said in a bitter tone, "You're so lucky to acquire these things. It seemed that you got quite some benefits from following Sir Territory Lord to the battlefield previously." Jia Jiyu said, "Do you think I obtained these things from the battlefield?" The feudal lord asked with surprise, "Didn't you?" Jia Jiyu put on a faint smile, "You're fully aware of the average size of humans, aren't you? How could I have possibly gotten these things from them?" The burly feudal lord was startled for a moment, but after giving it a thought, he realized that Jia Jiyu was right. Even though there were some slight differences between the humans when it came to their sizes, They were all petite in the Black Ink clan's eyes. Both the giant halberd and the artifact armor obviously didn't belong to humans. They must have been custom-made for Jia Ji. Even if another Black Ink clansman got his hands on these two artifacts, he would have a hard time using them if his size was too different from Jia Gu's. Another feudal lord thought of something as he asked excitedly, "Jia Ji, where did you get these artifacts from?" He had hit the nail on the head. Jia Ji turned to look at the feudal lord and decided to stop keeping them on tenterhooks. He said with a smile, "I asked someone to specifically refine these artifacts for me." "What? You asked someone to make these artifacts for you? A human artifact refiner?" All of them were flabbergasted. The feudal lord with wings gave it a thought and said, "Previously, the royal lord gave an order that all Black Ink disciples who were proficient in artifact refining were to be brought to the royal city. Where did you find a human artifact refiner to help you make these artifacts?" "That's right. Moreover, these artifacts appear quite extraordinary. The human artifact refiner who is able to make these things must be a great master. Such a Black Ink disciple should have headed to the royal city long ago." "Did you visit the royal city?" Jia Ji shook his head. "I certainly didn't go to the royal city, and even if I did, I couldn't possibly interfere with the royal lord's plan." The royal lord had indeed summoned all the Black Ink disciples who were skillful in artifact refining, but what if this human artifact refiner arrived at a later time? "What do you mean?" Jia Ji went on to say, "The Black Ink disciple that Sir Territory Lord recently brought back is an artifact refiner." "Him? I heard that this Black Ink disciple was pretty bold. Just because he's a Black Ink disciple serving Sir Territory Lord, he offended Sir Gui Liao back at the main castle. He left after that, and no one knows where he went." Jia Ji said with a smile, "I was beside Sir Territory Lord when he corrupted that human. On our way back, I had a chat with that Black Ink disciple, so it could be said that we're on good terms. That human came to my place after leaving the castle. As for his grudges with Sir Gui Liao, I'm sure all of you are aware of Sir Gui Liao's hobby. That human's small universe was damaged seriously in the last battle, so if he gave in to Sir Gui Liao's demand, his order would have regressed. That was why he left in fury and came to my place." The feudal lords nodded. They were aware of Gui Liao's hobby. In fact, some of them had this hobby as well, so they could relate to Gui Liao. A feudal lord asked, "He's an artifact refiner? The halberd I hold and the artifact armor I wear were refined by him. He's indeed an artifact refiner, and a good one at that." "Where is he?" Another feudal lord asked agitatedly. The giant halberd and artifact armor in Jia Gu's possession were indeed extraordinary. They certainly wanted something similar. Jia Ji replied with a smile, "He's still in my place. Tell him to see us. I want him to make artifacts for me." The other feudal lords agreed with him. Jia Ji grinned, "The reason I've invited all of you to come here is to help you get the artifacts you want. Be it a weapon or an artifact armor, you can place any order, however. Go on." Jia Ji went on to say, "That Black Ink disciple is a newcomer with no valuable items or resources on him. He certainly doesn't have Black Ink coins to purchase resources either. Therefore, he can help you refine artifacts, but you have to pay him a reasonable fee." The feudal lord with wings snapped, "He should be honored that we're here to tell him to make artifacts for us. How dare he demand a fee from us?" A glint flashed through the burly feudal lord's eyes. "Jia Ji, I guess it's you who wants the fee, not that human." Jia Ji replied solemnly, "He'll be the one making the artifacts, while I'm just acting as a middleman. The money will be given to him, however, since his promise to share a part of the profit with me, I naturally wouldn't turn him down." A feudal lord snorted, "I knew that a Black Ink disciple wouldn't be so audacious." Jia Ji refuted impassively, "That Black Ink disciple was personally corrupted by Sir Territory Lord, so he's different from the other Black Ink disciples. He doesn't even have any regard for Sir Gui Liao. Does any one of you think you're more powerful than Sir Gui Liao?" They had heard about what happened in the castle. After all, the battle between Yang Kai and Liu Zi and raised such a fuss that it couldn't be hidden. Upon hearing Jia Gu's words, these feudal lords were unable to refute him. In fact, he was right to say that since the Black Ink disciple didn't even have any regard for Gui Liao, It would be useless for them to try to force him to refine artifacts for them. After all, he was the territory lord's black ink disciple, so they wouldn't dare to cross the line. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to explain themselves when He Yuan was done recuperating. Brothers, with such artifacts in your possession, your attack and defense capabilities would be greatly enhanced. They could potentially save your life on the battlefield. Such treasures are hard to come by, so what's there to hesitate over when you're able to get them now? What are a few black ink coins compared to your life? Many feudal lords die on the battlefield, and once they do, their black ink coins become useless. To be honest with you, I spent my entire fortune in order to refine these artifacts. He wasn't lying, for he had indeed spent all of his money. Nevertheless, the cost included the black ink coins he had spent to get Yang Kai a profound yin spirit fruit. A feudal lord suddenly said, "It's no wonder that you borrowed some money from me recently." Jia Jiyu turned to look at that feudal lord. "If you want an artifact, I'll give you a 20% discount, and your order will be prioritized." The feudal lord nodded lightly. Jia Gu's sales tactics were effective. Just like he had said, it was hard for them to get their hands on useful artifacts. Now that there was a chance, they wouldn't want to miss it. The reason they were furious was that a black ink disciple had the guts to charge them a fee for his services. However, any fee would be worth it if they could earn greater merits and preserve their life on the battlefield. Another feudal lord asked, "How much will that black ink disciple charge?" Jia Jiyu directly replied, "You have to provide all the materials, and each artifact costs 20,000 black ink coins." "What? 20,000 black ink coins? Why don't you just rob us instead? Are you messing with us, Jia Jiyu?" These feudal lords were infuriated. It had to be noted that 20,000 black ink coins was a huge sum to them. Even though most of them were able to fork out 20,000 black ink coins, that could only buy them one artifact. If they wanted two, that would cost 40,000. These feudal lords served He Yuan territory lord, which meant they were not powerful enough to have their own independent territories and were thus not very wealthy. By forking out 40,000 black ink coins and paying for all the materials, all their savings would be gone. Faced with their wrath, Jia Jiyu just smiled in silence. He knew that regardless of how furious these feudal lords were, they would ultimately agree, for there were no black ink disciples who could help them refine artifacts. Even if there were such black ink disciples in the past, these feudal lords didn't have the right to get artifacts from those human artifact refiners. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5077, He's an artifact refiner. Jia Jiyu told Yang Kai that they would charge 10,000 black ink coins for every artifact, which was a hefty price in the latter's opinion. However, Jia Jiyu directly doubled the price in front of these feudal lords. His intentions were obvious, otherwise, he wouldn't have tried so hard to make it happen. He naturally wasn't willing to do anything that wouldn't bring him any benefits. This way, for every artifact that was crafted, he only had to give Yang Kai 7,000 black ink coins according to their agreement. On the other hand, he would be able to pocket 13,000 black ink coins. He would earn more than Yang Kai, who was the one actually making the artifacts. He already realized that it was a great business opportunity when Yang Kai made the artifacts for him. As a feudal lord, he naturally yearned for his own territory, however, that would require a lot of black ink coins. Although he had taken part in countless life-and-death fights on the battlefield before, he still hadn't accumulated enough wealth. If he could make good use of this opportunity, his dream would come true. A feudal lord with his own territory was totally different from those that had no territories. The boisterous feudal lords in the Grand Hall were furious at the fact that Jia Jiyu demanded such an unbearably high price, but an unfazed Jia Jiyu shuffled towards his own seat and said calmly, "Each of you is only allowed to get one artifact." Upon hearing that, all of them fell silent. A feudal lord frowned. "What do you mean by that, Jia Jiyu?" Jia Jiyu replied with a smile, "Just as I said." The feudal lords exchanged glances as they had no idea why Jia Jiyu came up with such a restriction. Every artifact would earn him 20,000 black ink coins, so he should be more than happy to get more orders for making more artifacts. Why would he limit how much he could earn? Jia Jiyu swept a glance over them with a solemn expression. Do all of you think he can keep on making artifacts for you forever? The feudal lord with wings on his back thought of something as his expression changed. You mean? He then pointed towards the ceiling. Jargu nodded gently. More than 10 years ago, the royal lord suddenly summoned all the human artifact refiners to the royal city. All the black ink disciples who know anything about artifact refining have been gathered up. I'm sure you're aware that I used to have a black ink disciple who was an artifact refiner, though he was not very skillful. Despite his lack of aptitude, even he was summoned. We have all heard rumors about what is going on in the royal city, that it is a project that will secure the Black Ink clan's future, so not even the slightest negligence is allowed. Black Ink disciples who know a little about artifact refining have all been summoned, so how could Yang Kai, who is an expert in artifact refining, be exempted? The reason he's still free now is that the news hasn't spread. Moreover, Sir Territory Lord is still recuperating. If my speculation is correct, when Sir Territory Lord is done recovering and finds out that Yang Kai is an artifact refiner, he will send him to the royal city to take part in that project. When that time comes, no one will be able to help you make artifacts no matter how many black ink coins you have. Everything he had said was reasonable and well known, so the feudal lords nodded in agreement. Upon realizing the situation they were faced with, those who were not willing to pay 20,000 black ink coins were caught in a dilemma. If Yang Kai was sent to the royal city, there would no longer be an artifact refiner who could make artifacts for them. Just then, a feudal lord asked, Jargu, how long does it take for him to make an artifact? About 2 to 3 months, Jargu replied and swept a glance over them. There are more than 10 of you here. In other words, we can ensure that every one of you will get an artifact before Sir Territory Lord is done recuperating. That's why I've come up with this restriction. Certainly, no one knows for sure when Sir Territory Lord will leave the Black Ink nest. If he comes out sooner than expected, some of you might not get your artifacts. Upon hearing that, an impetuous feudal lord shouted, I'll pay 20,000 then. I want an artifact. Following that, another feudal lord said, I'll buy one as well. In an instant, the feudal lords in the grand hall scrambled to place an order. Jargu slowly dealt with them with a smile. After everything was settled, he told these feudal lords to start preparing materials and black ink coins. Then, he personally saw them off. He was pleased to see them leaving in a hurry. Barely 2 hours later, a feudal lord returned and brought with him sufficient materials and 20,000 black ink coins. After taking the materials and black ink coins, Jargu headed to the cave and told Yang Kai about the feudal lord's size and requests. Yang Kai memorized them, and after Jargu left, he started making the artifact. Over the following days, Yang Kai stayed in the cave and focused on refining artifacts. He didn't have to worry about cultivation resources as Jargu would prepare everything for him. He just had to craft the artifacts according to the feudal lord's demands. For every artifact made, Jargu would give him 7,000 black ink coins. As Yang Kai refined artifacts day after day, his skills in artifact refining improved rapidly. At first, it took him 2 months to make an artifact armor for Jargu, but 2 years later, it would only take him 45 days to create such an artifact, and its quality would be higher as well. However, he had only been making huge offensive artifacts. No one ordered an artifact armor. It seemed that Black Ink clansmen were fond of offensive artifacts but not interested in artifact armors that could potentially save their lives. Over the past 2 years, Yang Kai managed to craft about 20 artifacts. As time passed, more and more feudal lords found out about Yang Kai's ability to refine artifacts through word of mouth. An increasing number of feudal lords came over to place an order, and the fee for refining an artifact rose to 30,000 black ink coins per piece. It wasn't until this moment that the first batch of feudal lords invited to Jargu's castle got over the bitter feeling. They even thought that they had picked up a bargain for their own artifact. As for the actual fee, Yang Kai knew nothing as he focused on refining artifacts in the cave. Even if he found out about it, he wouldn't be bothered. Everything he was doing was to better position himself to carry out his mission. Since more and more feudal lords asked him to create artifacts for them, it suggested that more people were becoming aware of his ability. That would allow him to have a higher chance of achieving his goal. His skills in artifact refining had improved significantly compared to 2 years ago, and even though he was far from being a grandmaster, he could be considered a great master. Great master, grandmaster, and great grandmaster were the different ranks of artifact refining. Although there wasn't a systematic classification, such ranks were universally acknowledged. Only those who were able to make high-rank artifacts could be regarded as grandmasters. Now, Yang Kai could only create mid-rank artifacts, so he was just a great master. He was now just waiting for He Yuan to leave the black ink nest. After making some calculations, he reckoned that this would probably happen in a few years. Inside He Yuan's castle, a feudal lord respectfully left the main hall while Gui Liao sported a solemn expression. He summoned this feudal lord because he had some routine business with him, but he was surprised to learn a piece of shocking news. The black ink disciple named Yang Kai was actually an artifact refiner, and a skillful one at that. Gui Liao was truly astonished. After the battle between Yang Kai and Liu Zian, he respectively punished them. He thought that by using the profound yin spirit fruit as a threat, Yang Kai would soon make a concession. However, that guy simply went missing for the past 2 years. This matter didn't really bother Gui Liao. As the territory lord's black ink disciple, Yang Kai couldn't possibly have gone far and must be hiding somewhere on the universe fragment and recuperating. Perhaps he was waiting for the territory lord to come out of the black ink nest to stand up for him. That was what Gui Liao originally thought, so he never expected that Yang Kai had gone to Jargu's place and started refining artifacts for the feudal lords. He was shocked when he learned this. The other feudal lords might not be aware of how valuable a human artifact refiner was, however, as He Yuan's confidant, Gui Liao was. The royal lord was carrying out a grand plan that would affect the entire Black Ink clan's future, and it had something to do with human artifact refiners. It could be said that every artifact refiner was an invaluable asset to the royal lord and were thus regarded quite highly. A human artifact refiner was no longer just any ordinary black ink disciple. In that case, despite Gui Liao's noble identity, he couldn't possibly oppress Yang Kai, otherwise, He Yuan would punish him when he exited the black ink nest. However, Gui Liao couldn't apologize. As a noble feudal lord, he wouldn't give in to a black ink disciple no matter what. After giving it a thought, he called out, Liu Zian. Liu Zian stepped out from the darkness. Master. Go to Jargu's place and tell him to come over. Yes, Liu Zian replied. Barely 4 hours later, Jargu appeared before Gui Liao and saluted him. Then, he asked respectfully, Is there something you want me to do for you, Sir Gui Liao? Gui Liao stared fixedly at him. Jargu, I heard that you've earned quite a lot of black ink coins recently. Jargu was startled for a moment, but he soon pulled himself together and put on a fawning smile. You found out about it, Sir Gui Liao? He knew that this matter couldn't be hidden from Gui Liao, and he had already expected it to get out at some point. Gui Liao snorted. Before Sir Territory Lord entered the black ink nest, he told me to manage the affairs in his territory. Since such an incident has happened, how could I possibly not be aware of it? How dare you, Jargu? Since that black ink disciple is an artifact refiner, why didn't you inform me immediately and instead hid him away in your place to make artifacts for others? Jargu slightly bent his back. Sir Gui Liao, that human is Sir Territory Lord's black ink disciple after all. Since he wants to stay in my place, I can't possibly chase him away. Gui Liao sneered. You just aren't willing to let him go, are you? You're charging 30,000 black ink coins for an artifact. It would take you dozens, if not hundreds of years to earn that much money. Jargu forced a smile. Please understand my situation, Sir Gui Liao. How much do you give that human? Gui Liao asked. After hesitating for a while, Jargu replied, I told him that we'll charge 10,000 black ink coins per artifact, and I would get 30%. You're really something, Gui Liao mocked. He's the one doing all the work, but he only gets 7,000 black ink coins for each piece while you get 20 to 30,000. You've been treating him well, haven't you? Aren't you worried that when he finds out about it, he'll file a complaint against you in front of Sir Territory Lord? Jargu turned pale. I suppose Sir Territory Lord won't bother dealing with such a small matter. Gui Liao replied calmly, who knows? After all, so Territory Lord regards him quite highly. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5078, Gui Liao's Plan. Jia Jiyu instantly became apprehensive upon hearing Gui Liao's words. Over the past 2 years, the amount of black ink coins he had earned off of Yang Kai was significantly more than what he could possibly make in his lifetime. With so much wealth in his possession now, he naturally wouldn't want to give it up. However, just like what Gui Liao had said, if Yang Kai found out about it and filed a complaint with the Territory Lord after the latter left the black ink nest, Jia Jiyu would be doomed. Although he believed that the Territory Lord wouldn't care about such a trivial matter, Yang Kai's identity was special after all. Not only was he a human artifact refiner, he had also gained the Territory Lord's favor. What if the Territory Lord was willing to stand up for him? An anxious Jia Jiyu gazed at Gui Liao. So Gui Liao, do you think I should give all the money back to him? Gui Liao sneered. Without directly answering his question, he asked, Jia Jiyu, how long have you been a feudal lord? Even though Jia Jiyu had no idea why the other man suddenly asked about it, he still replied honestly, I've been a feudal lord for 3,000 years. You've been stuck as a feudal lord for 3,000. Have you ever thought about ascending to become a territory lord? Jia Jiyu said solemnly, it is every feudal lord's dream to become a territory lord one day. However, there's never been an opportunity for me. Just like open heaven realm masters, accumulation was key to a black ink clansman's cultivation. However, humans could refine all sorts of cultivation materials while that wasn't possible for the black ink clan. There were 2 ways black ink clansmen could grow their strength. First, they could absorb world force and convert it into their own black ink strength. Secondly, they could directly absorb black ink strength produced in black ink nests to enhance their powers. The omnipresent black ink strength in He Yuan's territory was born from the black ink nest, and every black ink clansman could absorb it freely. Black ink strength in this place was like world energy in the 3,000 worlds. However, there were innumerable black ink clansmen living in this territory, and everyone was absorbing and refining the ambient black ink strength. With so many people sharing the black ink strength, Jia Jiyu wouldn't be able to absorb a lot of it to strengthen himself regardless of how hard he tried. An opportunity, Gui Liao smiled. Sir Territory Lord once said that we shouldn't wait for opportunities to come to us, we have to create them for ourselves. Suddenly realizing something, Jia Jiyu looked fervently at him. Sir Gui Liao, you mean? Gui Liao stared fixedly at him and changed the topic by saying, do you want your own fief? Upon hearing that, Jia Jiyu felt his breathing becoming hurried. He instantly nodded, of course I do. The reason I've been trying so hard to earn black ink coins is that I want to buy a sub-nest from Sir Territory Lord. However, he's recuperating now, and the black ink nest has been shut. Moreover, I don't have enough black ink coins. Although he had earned a lot of money by relying on Yang Kai to make artifacts, he had only amassed 300,000 black ink coins. This was a considerable sum of wealth for a feudal lord, as 300,000 black ink coins were worth about 3 billion open heaven pills. A feudal lord was equivalent to a 7th-order open heaven realm master, and there were rarely any 7th-order humans who possessed so much wealth. It was the same case for the Black Ink clan. In order to own a fief, not only did a Black Ink clansman have to become a feudal lord, but they also had to possess a black ink nest of their own. Only then would he have a right to apply for a fief from the territory lord. Nevertheless, the lowest rank black ink nest cost 500,000 black ink coins. The average black ink clansman would never be able to amass so much wealth in his lifetime. This was the reason there were so many feudal lords, but only a small number of them had their own fiefs. Although they were powerful enough, they didn't have sufficient finances to purchase a black ink nest. Once a feudal lord possessed his own black ink nest, it would be far more convenient for him to cultivate or recuperate when he was injured. For example, after Jia Jiyu returned from the battlefield, even though he was wounded, he was unable to enter the black ink nest to recuperate as the territory lord had shut it. He could only go back to his own castle and wait for his wounds to heal slowly. However, if he had his own black ink nest, he would recover far more quickly. By owning his own black ink nest, he could also cultivate inside it and increase his strength rapidly so that he would stand a much better chance of becoming a territory lord. There were many benefits to owning a black ink nest. One such benefit was that he would have his own fief, which could attract a lot of lower-rank Black Ink clansmen to settle in his territory. If high-rank Black Ink clansmen wanted to ascend to become feudal lords, they would have to get the help of his Black Ink Nest's power. By doing so, they would have to pay him a fee. That would bring him a steady source of income. Besides that, he would also have the right to conscript the Black Ink clansmen living in his fief when war broke out. By then, he could establish his own army to fight against the humans. If he made a contribution on the battlefield, he would be rewarded handsomely. Feudal lords with their own fiefs were very different from those who didn't have their own fiefs. It was Jargu's dream to have his own Black Ink Nest and fief, and he had been working hard to achieve it. When Gui Liao asked him such a question all of a sudden, he couldn't help but fall into his wild thoughts as he secretly anticipated what the other man would say next. As expected, Gui Liao said with a smile, "It's not hard for you to get your own fief. In fact, I can help you with that." Jargu felt his throat tightening as he asked agitatedly, "How are you going to help me, Sir Gui Liao?" Gui Liao replied, "You're strong enough, but you'll need 500,000 Black Ink coins to buy a sub-nest. How much money do you have now?" After hesitating for a moment, Jargu said meekly, 300,000. Gui Liao nodded gently, "You need another 200,000, then. It's fine. I can lend that much to you and you can pay me back when you have the money in the future." Jargu said, "Even if there's enough Black Ink coins, the Black Ink Nest is shut now. How am I supposed to get a sub-nest? I'll have to wait for the territory lords to come out." The Black Ink Nests owned by the feudal lords were bred from the territory lord's Black Ink Nest. The relationship between them was like that of a mother and her children. That was why the Black Ink Nests owned by the feudal lords were called subnests. On the other hand, the Black Ink Nests owned by the territory lords were bred from the royal lord's Black Ink Nest. Similarly, they were the subnests of the royal lord's Black Ink Nest. It required a lot of energy to breed a subnest from a Black Ink Nest, so every subnest cost a substantial amount of Black Ink coins. It wouldn't be given to a feudal lord for free, with the exception of if he had made a massive contribution. Therefore, even though Gui Liao was willing to lend Jargu some money, even the cleverest woman could not cook a meal without rice. Right then, Gui Liao said, "I happen to have a sub-nest with me. I prepared it for myself back then, however, Sir Territory Lord has ordered me to help manage his territory and never lets me go. That's why the sub-nest is still unused. Now that I'm about to ascend to become a territory lord, the sub-nest is useless to me. I can sell it to you." What a coincidence. Jargu was both shocked and pleasantly surprised. Over the past 2 years, he had been exploiting young Kai just to get enough money to purchase a subnest, but he hadn't managed to earn enough Black Ink coins even now. It never crossed his mind that not only was Gui Liao willing to lend him some money, but he would also sell his subnest to him. Given his understanding of Gui Liao, Jargu knew that the other man wasn't a kind-hearted person. Hence, while he was excited, he asked cautiously, "Is there a condition attached to this deal, Sir Gui Liao?" Gui Liao started chuckling, "I've always known that you're clever, Jargu. It seems that I was right about you. There's indeed a condition, but it won't harm you in any way. Please make it clear to me, Sir Gui Liao." With a solemn expression, Gui Liao said, "When you have your own fief, I want you to bring young Kai to that place and make him continue refining artifacts. I can introduce some wealthy feudal lords to you who are much richer than your friends. Also, I will take half of the profit from the sale of these artifacts. Additionally, I want him to refine 2 artifacts for me first. 1 offensive artifact and 1 defensive artifact." Jargu thought that the other man was indeed greedy by demanding half of the profit. With that said, they could command a higher price from wealthier feudal lords. After all, just like him, the customers he introduced to young Kai were feudal lords who didn't have their own fiefs. Feudal lords who relied on the territory lord to survive naturally were not affluent. As for making 2 artifacts for Gui Liao first, that wasn't really an issue. After giving it a thought, Jargu asked, "Sir Gui Liao, how much do you think we should charge our new customers for artifacts?" Instead of answering his question, Gui Liao asked, "What do you think?" Jargu thought that the other man was a bit ridiculous for just throwing the question back at him, but despite what he thought, he still replied, I'm currently charging my existing customers 30,000 black ink coins per piece. As for the feudal lords that you know, why don't we charge them 50,000 per artifact? If they charged 50,000 per artifact, other than the 7,000 black ink coins that had to be given to Yang Kai, the remaining money would be equally split between Gui Liao and him. That way, he would still get 21,500 black ink coins. It was only slightly less than the 23,000 he was receiving now, which was the amount of money he could get by exploiting Yang Kai on his own. Furthermore, the deal would be worth it since he was able to get a fief and a black ink nest. 50,000 was a huge sum in his eyes. After all, when he demanded 30,000, many feudal lords were unwilling to pay for it. They would cross the line by asking for a higher price. 100,000, Gui Liao said coldly. What? Jia Jiyu thought that he had misheard him as he gazed at him in shock. 100,000, it's decided. Sir Gui Liao. Jia Jiyu couldn't help but call out, isn't this price somewhat exorbitant? Will those feudal lords be willing to pay such a price to get an artifact? Gui Liao sneered, do not compare the feudal lords you know to my associates. They are all feudal lords who have their own fiefs. Do you think feudal lords who can afford to buy subnests are not wealthy enough? They're all eager to obtain artifacts made by human artifact refiners. However, since all the artifact refiners have been sent to the royal city, they aren't able to get their hands on them even if they want to. If there's someone who can refine artifacts for them, they'll even agree to paying more than 100,000. After all, they only have one life, and they can always earn more black ink coins. After a pause, he went on to say, moreover, when Sir Territory Lord leaves the black ink nest, this business will naturally have to stop. He'll definitely send Yang Kai to the royal city, so if we don't seize this opportunity to earn more money now, there won't be such a chance again in the future. Don't worry. You just have to bring Yang Kai to your fief, and I'll introduce some customers to you. You just have to serve them. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5079, The Ranks of Black Ink Nests. Since Gui Liao had said so, there was nothing Jia Jiyu could do about it other than nod in agreement. Gui Liao then asked, do you have any specific demands when it comes to your fief? After giving it a thought, Jia Jiyu replied, I don't have any specific demands really, but it seems that Yang Kai needs to rely on an external aid like Earthfire to refine artifacts. Do you have a recommendation for that, Sir Gui Liao? Upon hearing that, Gui Liao started going through his universe chart and a moment later, he left a mark somewhere and passed it to Jia Jiyu. There was originally a great sun in this area. Although the sun is dead now, it still has a great amount of residual power. Let's just make this place your fief. The power of the great sun is still much greater than an earth fire. In the meantime, Jia Jiyu was glancing at the universe chart. Upon locating the dead great sun, he nodded, good. Gui Liao then waved his hand, after which Liu Ziyan stepped out of the darkness with a unique-looking box in his hands. It wasn't certain what the box was made from as it didn't look like metal nor jade. It also wasn't certain what was inside the box. However, the moment Jia Jiyu saw the box, he became agitated and could not peel his eyes away. Gui Liao said with a smile, you have to keep this sub-nest in a safe place. I only have one sub-nest, so if you lose it, it will be gone for good. An excited Jia Jiyu took the box and thanked him repeatedly. This was the key to becoming a feudal lord with a fief, and it was also the thing he had always dreamed of getting. It never crossed his mind that he could easily obtain it on this day. Do you need me to teach you how to hatch it? Gui Liao asked. There's no need for that, Jia Jiyu shook his head. Suddenly recalling something, he said hesitantly, Sir, it requires a lot of resources or world force to hatch a black ink nest. Aye. A generous Gui Liao waved his hand, just buy the resources with the 300,000 black ink coins you have. It should be enough to hatch a black ink nest. As for the 500,000 black ink coins required to buy this black ink nest, you can pay me back later. Many thanks, Sir Gui Liao. Jia Jiyu was grateful. Although he now owed Gui Liao 500,000 black ink coins, it was worth it for a feudal lord like him. He secretly made some calculations and realized that if what Gui Liao said could be achieved, he would get 46,500 black ink coins for every artifact. After making young Kai craft more than 11 artifacts, he would be able to pay off his debt. He couldn't help but think that it was easy to make money with a human artifact refiner with him. He also felt fortunate that young Kai and Gui Liao were on bad terms, otherwise, he wouldn't be able to earn so much cash. Gui Liao would have taken full control over this matter. Now, Gui Liao only assisted him in secret instead of taking matters into his own hands. He must be worried that the territory lord would investigate certain matters when he was done recuperating. Therefore, even though Jia Jiyu would earn even more money, he would also have to take some risks. Despite knowing all of that, Jia Jiyu still happily obliged. After leaving the castle, Jia Jiyu was still in a dazed state. He still couldn't believe that his dream had finally come true. The box that contained the subnest couldn't be kept inside a space ring. To the Black Ink clan, a black ink nest was also a living creature. Therefore, Jia Jiyu returned to his castle and carefully put the box in a safe place before touring around He Yuan's territory. He then spent his wealth by buying a lot of world spheres and materials of different orders. 300,000 black ink coins were soon used up. Despite that, the substantial amount of resources in his space ring made him feel at ease. While Jia Jiyu had gotten everything ready, young Kai was completing another artifact. After telling young Kai to get some rest, Jia Jiyu started dealing with the feudal lords who were there to have their artifacts crafted. Since he had come to an agreement with Gui Liao, he wasn't willing to keep wasting time here. After all, he could only charge these feudal lords 30,000 for one artifact, while Gui Liao promised that they would be able to charge 100,000 per artifact. Since there was a huge difference between the prices, Jia Jiyu naturally knew which one to choose. Certainly, the feudal lords were not pleased with this. However, Jia Jiyu said that Gui Liao had summoned young Kai back to the castle. With this being the case, there was nothing these feudal lords could do about it. After all, young Kai was the territory lord's black ink disciple, so it wasn't appropriate for him to keep staying in Jia Gu's abode. When everything was prepared, Jia Jiyu gathered all his subordinates together and led young Kai to navigate across the void. On the way to their destination, young Kai said worriedly, "Brother Jia Jiyu, it's inappropriate that I'm suddenly leaving without informing Sir Gui Liao about it." Jia Jiyu replied with a smile, "Don't worry about it, Brother Yang. I've informed Sir Gui Liao already, and he's aware that you've been staying in my place for the past 2 years. Did he say anything?" Jia Jiyu shook his head. "Sir Gui Liao is busy dealing with the affairs in the territory. He can't be bothered to handle such a trivial matter." Yang Kai nodded gently, "That's good." Then, he asked in puzzlement, "Where are we going?" An energetic Jia Jiyu replied, "We're going to my fief." Yang Kai nodded. Upon seeing the other man's lukewarm reaction, Jia Jiyu said with a smile, "Brother Yang, since you're a human, I suppose you have no idea how important a fief is to a Black Ink clansman." Yang Kai really had no idea about it. Although he had been staying by Enyu Yang's side for 2 years in the Black Ink clan's hinterland in the past, the latter was just a high-rank clansman who was equivalent to a 6th-order human. Moreover, Enyu Tan simply went from one blood arena to the next to earn Black Ink coins. Basically, Yang Kai knew little about the internal affairs of the Black Ink clan. In fact, even though the two races had been fighting against each other for millennia, the humans still didn't know much about the Black Ink clan. Yang Kai played along by saying, "Please enlighten me." There was a sense of pride on Jia Gu's face as he spoke. "Let me put it this way, Brother Yang. Only with a fief in possession will a feudal lord be considered a real feudal lord. The feudal lords who don't have a fief are like tigers without teeth." A puzzled Yang Kai said, "I don't get it." Jia Jiyu chuckled, "Since you're a human, it's expected that you don't get it. Do you know why there are so many feudal lords but only a small number of them have their own fiefs? Is it because there isn't enough land?" Yang Kai gave a random answer. In fact, he had pondered on this issue before, but he couldn't figure out the reason behind it. Since Jia Jiyu mentioned it all of a sudden, he reckoned that his doubt would be solved on this day. Upon hearing that, Jia Jiyu was startled for a moment before breaking into laughter. "That's indeed one of the reasons. Sir Territory Lord has dozens of feudal lords working for him. If every feudal lord had their own fief, there wouldn't be enough land. Nevertheless, The main reason is the limited number of black ink nests. Black ink nests. Yang Kai arched his brow with surprise. What does it have to do with the black ink nests? Jia Jiyu explained, although the humans have fought against the Black Ink clan for countless years, I guess you all still don't know that there are different ranks of black ink nests. You've seen Sir Territory Lord's black ink nest. Don't you think it's enormous and imposing? Yes. Yang Kai bowed his head. The black ink nests are the foundation of the Black Ink clan, and there are 3 ranks in total, which the Royal Lord's black ink nests, the Territory Lord's black ink nests, and the Feudal Lord's black ink nests. In the humans' terms, these black ink nests could be categorized into high rank, mid rank, and low rank. Sir Territory Lord's black ink nest is mid rank. You might think that it's splendid, but if you have the chance to see a Royal Lord's black ink nest, you'll realize that the one owned by Sir Territory Lord is quite petite. Yang Kai's expression changed as it was the first time he heard about this. He reckoned that the humans had no idea about such a categorization as well. With his brow raised, he asked, so, a feudal lord's black ink nest would be considered low rank? Yes. Jia Jiyu nodded. Every black ink nest is dependent on the higher rank one. What do you mean by that? Yang Kai frowned. Jia Jiyu explained with a smile, a territory lord's black ink nest must be bred from the royal lord's black ink nest, while a feudal lord's black ink nest is always bred from a territory lord's black ink nest. Therefore, the feudal lord's black ink nest is a subnest of the territory lord's black ink nest, while a territory lord's black ink nest is a subnest of the royal lord's black ink nest. There's such a relationship between the black ink nests. Yang Kai was astonished, thinking that he had learned a great secret of the Black Ink clan today. In the past, the humans had some speculations about how the black ink nests were born, but they were never able to discern the truth. It wasn't until Yang Kai heard about it from Jia Jiyu that he realized a lower rank black ink nest was separated from a higher rank black ink nest. With a solemn expression, Jia Jiyu went on to say, it requires a lot of energy for a sub-nest to be born, so each one is extremely precious. We won't be able to get it with ease. As he spoke, he patted the box in his arms. I bought this sub-nest with 500,000 black ink coins. Yang Kai was flabbergasted. That's a sub-nest. Jia Jiyu had been carrying this box while on their way to their destination. Yang Kai could certainly see it. Although he was curious, he never asked what was inside the box. It wasn't until this moment that he realized it was a sub-nest. Yes, it's a sub-nest. Jia Jiyu nodded seriously. However, it hasn't been hatched. After it's hatched, it will be a real black ink nest. With that said, it will naturally be much smaller than Sir Territory Lord's black ink nest. After all, it's just a feudal lord black ink nest. With this black ink nest though, I'll become a real feudal lord. As he spoke, he started envisioning the bright future ahead of him. With my own black ink nest, I'll be able to attract more black ink clansmen to settle down in my fief. If those high-rank black ink clansmen want to ascend to become feudal lords, they'll have to rely on my black ink nest's power, and I can charge them a fee just to use it. When there are enough residents in the fief, I can form my own army and follow Sir Territory Lord to fight against the humans. Yang Kai was practically beside himself as it was the first time he found out that a black ink nest had to be hatched. Was it really a living creature? How was it hatched? He had seen a lot of feudal lord black ink nests, but they were all gigantic. Although a feudal lord black ink nest was not comparable to the one owned by a territory lord, it couldn't possibly be stuffed into a box. While feeling doubtful, he asked cautiously, Brother Jia Jiyu, you said that if those high-rank black ink clansmen want to ascend to become a feudal lord, they would have to rely on your black ink nest. What if you want to ascend to become a territory lord? Jia Jiyu replied, I'll have to rely on the territory lord's black ink nest, which is the one owned by Sir Territory Lord. This black ink nest is not powerful enough to support my ascension. Yang Kai nodded upon hearing his explanation. In other words, a low-rank black ink nest could help a black ink clansman ascend to become a feudal lord, while a mid-rank black ink nest could help a feudal lord become a territory lord. However, only the high-rank black ink nest could help a territory lord ascend to become a royal lord. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5080, Hatching a Black Ink Nest. The different ranks of black ink nests were owned by black ink clansmen of varying statuses. It was a clear and simple system. After giving it a thought, Yang Kai asked, "Can a subnest be born from a feudal lord black ink nest?" Jia Jiyu shook his head with a smile. "The feudal lord black ink nest is the lowest rank. How can a subnest be separated from it? Then, whose subnest is the royal lord black ink nests from?" The question startled Jia Jiyu. "The royal lord black ink nest is already the highest rank." Yang Kai frowned. "However, according to you, every black ink nest is separated from a higher rank black ink nest. In that case, there should be a source where all the black ink nests come from. What is this source?" A dazed Jia Jiyu gazed at Yang Kai for a moment before putting on a smile. "It beats me, brother Yang. I have no idea what or where the source is. However, as far as I know, the royal lord black ink nest is indeed the highest rank. There isn't a higher rank black ink nest. Perhaps the royal lord's black ink nest is the source." Yang Kai nodded as he could only acknowledge this statement to be true for now. He decided not to delve into this topic further. Instead, he grew curious about the box in Jia Gu's hands. "Brother Jia Jiyu, how are you going to hatch it so that it'll become a real black ink nest?" Jia Jiyu chuckled. "You'll find out soon." As they spoke, they kept moving forward. A few days later, Jia Jiyu suddenly stopped and fished out a universe chart. Universe charts were initially invented by humans. However, as the two races fought against one another for countless years, many of the humans' inventions had been acquired by the Black Ink clan. Some of the examples were flight-type artifacts and universe charts. "It's here." Upon determining their exact location, Jia Jiyu became energetic. "With this place as the center, a half-day's journey radius will now be considered my fief." Yang Kai was stunned. "Your fief is pretty vast, then." It had to be noted that Jia Jiyu was a feudal lord, so he could cross quite a distance by flying for half a day. In other words, his fief would be massive. Jia Jiyu chuckled. "It's just luck." Then, he looked around the area. Initially, the entire Black Ink battlefield was supposed to be a flourishing place. However, due to the Black Ink clan's characteristics, the Black Ink battlefield was only filled with dead universe worlds now. Now, all they could see nearby were universe worlds and universe fragments that were full of death chi. Jia Jiyu soon found a suitable place and flew towards a universe world that was neither small nor big, landing soon after. The entire world was filled with death chi and there wasn't even a tinge of vitality. Yang Kai couldn't even feel a bit of world force around here. With that said, he wasn't surprised as this was only to be expected. "I'll choose this place, then." Jia Jiyu looked around, evidently pleased with this area. As he spoke, he carefully put down the box that he had been carrying in his arms. Although this square box was small, it seemed to be weighty. Yang Kai didn't realize it when the box was in Jia Gu's arms, but the moment he put it down, the entire ground shook a little. Even the area around the box sunk somewhat. With a solemn expression, Jia Jiyu gazed at the box and said in an equally solemn tone, "Brother Yang, don't you want to know how a black ink nest is hatched? You should watch attentively, then." Yang Kai nodded gently and stared fixedly at the box. Just then, black ink strength started billowing from Jia Gu's hand as he placed his palm on the box. It wasn't certain what he had done, but the box cracked and split. In an instant, a flower bud that was yet to blossom came into Yang Kai's sight. As this happened, the entire black ink nest started squirming violently as something that looked like flesh grew out of it. The initially petite black ink nest started expanding rapidly. Just moments later, the originally small black ink nest had expanded by several times, and its growth didn't seem to be stopping anytime soon. Jia Jiyu continuously threw more world spheres, which were filled with world force, into the black ink nest, which never stopped growing. A few days later, a 1,000-meter tall feudal lord's black ink nest that occupied a large area was born. Yang Kai was shaken to the core as he watched the entire process. It wasn't until this moment that he figured out how the black ink nests came about. In fact, he was probably the first human to ever witness how a black ink nest was hatched. Perhaps some black ink disciples had seen it in the past, but such information had never been collected by the humans. "It's almost done," Jia Jiyu was pleased as he gazed at the huge black ink nest. His subordinates had been repeatedly performing the same ritual in a sincere manner, and they didn't seem to be stopping anytime soon. Is this its final form? Yang Kai asked. He had seen a lot of black ink nests owned by the feudal lords before, but they were all much larger than this. That was why he was curious. Jia Jiyu shook his head. This black ink nest can still keep growing, but I don't have a lot of resources with me now. I need to use them for other matters. I'll only be able to keep growing this black ink nest when I have some spare money. I see. Yang Kai bowed his head. Let's take a look inside. Jia Jiyu was in a jolly mood and he couldn't wait to share his joy with others. Nevertheless, other than his subordinates, Yang Kai was the only black ink disciple there. Hence, he could only invite Yang Kai to go in. Certainly, Yang Kai wouldn't turn him down. In fact, he was curious about what the inside of a black ink nest looked like. Although he had entered Zhu Feng's mid-rank black ink nest before, that one was specifically used for recuperating. Moreover, all his focus was on killing Zhu Feng back then, so he didn't pay attention to anything else at that time. After the black ink nest took shape, it looked like a huge flower bud sitting on the ground. Over the past few days when the black ink nest was growing, Yang Kai could clearly feel that a profound force seemed to have expanded from beneath the black ink nest and turned into roots, which connected the black ink nest to this universe world. Jia Jiyu didn't seem to have made a move, but the moment he stood in front of the black ink nest, a gap appeared at the bottom and revealed a dark passageway. He had used a drop of blood from his heart to refine this black ink nest, so as he was now connected to it, he could easily control it. After Jia Jiyu stepped inside, Yang Kai followed him closely. They walked across the long passageway and arrived at an empty room. Yang Kai could see that the walls of this room seemed to be made from flesh. The entire black ink nest was filled with black ink strength and an indescribably evil aura. Jia Jiyu said, "With this black ink nest, it will be easier for me to cultivate. There's even a chance for me to ascend to become a territory lord. I'll congratulate you in advance then, brother Jia Jiyu." Yang Kai cupped his fist, then asked curiously, "I saw you using up a lot of world spheres earlier. So, it requires the world force to hatch a black ink nest?" Jia Jiyu replied with a smile, "Yes, it requires the world force to hatch a black ink nest. Of course, cultivation resources used by humans would work as well. Let me put it this way, a black ink nest can absorb anything that contains energy and transform it into black ink strength." Upon hearing his explanation, Yang Kai thought that it was no wonder wherever the black ink clansmen went, the universe worlds would be filled with death chi. The Black Ink clan was the natural enemy of the 3,000 worlds. If they were allowed to invade the 3,000 worlds, all life would be purged. Since time immemorial, the masters of every generation from the cave heavens and paradises had been trying to destroy the Black Ink clan on the Black Ink battlefield to stop them from threatening the 3,000 worlds. For this reason, countless people lost their lives. However, other than the cultivators from the cave heavens and paradises, there was barely anyone in the entire 3,000 worlds who was aware of what was going on. It was a tragedy for all these sacrifices to be made yet never recognized. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5081, Information Network. Since it was a new black ink nest, there was nothing interesting inside it. However, Yang Kai was shocked upon hearing Jagu's explanation. This black ink nest would swallow just about anything that contained energy and use it as food. This characteristic reminded him of the heaven-devouring great emperor, Wu Kuang. That guy cultivated the heaven-devouring battle law, and he claimed to be able to swallow anything in the world. Moreover, he possessed the flawless purifying golden lotus, which perfectly complemented the heaven-devouring battle law. Yang Kai couldn't help but think about what would happen if Wu Kuang came to the black ink battlefield. Would he be corrupted by black ink strength? Would he be able to use heaven-devouring battle law and turn black ink strength into something he could utilize? However, that guy couldn't really show up in public now. He went missing after Yang Kai sent him to the Shattered Heaven previously, and it wasn't certain whether he was dead or alive now. Having said that, Yang Kai reckoned that Wu Kuang must be alive and kicking. It was said that good people didn't live long while a scourge would never die. After casting this strange idea away, Yang Kai slightly opened the portal of his small universe, whereupon his world force streamed out of his body. The next moment, an anomaly took place. Like a cat that had caught a whiff of a fishy smell, the flesh walls in the black ink nest started drawing the world force towards them and absorbing it. An astounded Yang Kai instinctually wanted to close the portal of his small universe. After all, he would suffer a loss by letting the black ink nest devour his world force. However, before he could close the portal, he came into contact with a strange will. The reason this will felt strange was that it gave off a stiff feeling, as though it didn't have sentience of its own, or wasn't fully conscious. This revelation astonished Yang Kai as he gazed at Jia Jiyu. Jia Jiyu only looked smilingly at him, as though he had already expected this. Seeing that the other man didn't have the intention of stopping him, Yang Kai set his mind at ease and started exploring this will. Just like what he initially felt, the will wasn't an illusion, it was just that it didn't have a consciousness of its own. After some exploration, a surprised Yang Kai asked, "Brother Jia Jiyu, does this black ink nest have its own consciousness?" He came to realize that the source of the will was the black ink nest itself. Jia Jiyu replied with a smile, "Of course, this black ink nest has its own consciousness. In fact, all black ink nests have their own consciousnesses, but this consciousness is just a medium. It won't express any of its feelings." "A medium?" Yang Kai was puzzled. "What do you mean?" Jia Jiyu said, "Since you're able to connect to this black ink nest's consciousness, why don't you just explore it to find the answers yourself?" "Find the answers myself?" There seemed to be an insinuation in Jia Gu's words. He seemed to suggest that there was a secret behind the black ink nest's consciousness, so a curious Yang Kai began probing around. This was the best chance for him to explore some of the Black Ink clan's secrets, so he didn't want to miss it. Furthermore, Jia Jiyu needed him to refine more artifacts, so he probably wouldn't harm him. At the thought of this, Yang Kai became at ease. Initially, when he detected the will's presence, he wanted to ward it off as he was worried that it would harm him in some way. Upon making sure that the will didn't have a consciousness or mind of its own, he was able to relax. As he opened his portal, the power of his small universe was continuously swallowed by the black ink nest. As his world force left his body, Yang Kai realized that his mind was slowly connected to the black ink nest's consciousness. This was a special experience. Yang Kai couldn't help but think that he and the black ink nest were going to merge. Nevertheless, he knew that it was just an illusion. He was being influenced by the fact that his mind and the black ink nest's consciousness were mingling. Just a moment later, Yang Kai's mind fully merged with the black ink nest's consciousness. This startled him as the merging process was incredibly smooth, as though the consciousness had been waiting to accept him. Certainly, he knew this wasn't the truth. The black ink nest didn't have any sentience, so he reckoned that as long as certain conditions were met, anyone's mind could perfectly merge with the consciousness. The moment he and the black ink nest's consciousness became one, Yang Kai seemed to have plunged into a different world. There was no light or substance in this world. In fact, there wasn't even any physical presence here. In this world, there were only consciousnesses that moved around and communicated with each other. Yang Kai was flabbergasted. He could feel that there were two consciousnesses in a similar state as his that were communicating with one another. They seemed to be talking about a business deal that involved a lot of rare resources and Black Ink clan servants. Then, he realized that he could also detect the communication between some other consciousnesses. However, some consciousnesses had blocked out the others as any eavesdropper would be met with hostility. Yang Kai's consciousness navigated through this amazing world and saw the existence of different consciousnesses. Some of these consciousnesses were wandering about just like him. Some of them remained on the same spot as they absorbed as much information as they could. There were also some that were communicating others. Soon, Yang Kai realized something that concerned him. All these consciousnesses seemed to be moving around in a huge medium, which itself was a consciousness that didn't have a mind of its own. This mindless consciousness was much larger than the consciousness of Jia Gu's Black Ink nest. Oh, there's a new aura here. While Yang Kai was in his thoughts, a wandering consciousness detected his presence and approached him to ask, "Who are you? Why have I never met you before?" Yang Kai was startled, not knowing how to respond to him. It wasn't like he could tell him he was a black ink disciple. The disturbance soon attracted the attention of the nearby consciousnesses. Yang Kai realized that the black ink nest's consciousness that carried his mind was now being gazed upon by countless pairs of eyes. He quickly retracted himself from this strange world and cut off his connection with the black ink nest's will. Jia Yu was just standing beside him and watching in silence. Upon seeing that Yang Kai started moving again, he asked with a smile, "Was it fun?" With a solemn expression, Yang Kai asked, "Brother Jia Yu, the consciousnesses I came across." Knowing what the other man was trying to ask, Jia Yu cut him off by saying, "Just like me, they're the feudal lords with their own fiefs. Just like what you did earlier, they merged their minds with their black ink nest's consciousnesses and entered the domain of the territory lord's black ink nest." The domain of the territory lord's black ink nest? Yang Kai was stunned as he recalled the much larger consciousness that he came across earlier. Jia Yu nodded. The black ink nests of the feudal lords are separated from Sir Territory Lord's black ink nest, so they're the subnests of Sir Territory Lord's black ink nest. Regardless of the distance, as long as these subnests are not separated across worlds, they can communicate with each other. Of course, this requires the support of the domain of the Territory Lord's black ink nest, so you can regard this domain as a platform for communication. Despite Jia Gu's convoluted explanation, Yang Kai understood the abstrusity of it following his experience earlier. To put it simply, the Territory Lord's black ink nest had its own consciousness that was without a mind. This consciousness could turn into a domain and allow the consciousnesses of the subnests to enter. The feudal lords who had their own fiefs could merge their minds with the consciousnesses of the subnests in order to enter this domain. Yang Kai soon understood the crux of the matter. With a serious expression, he said, "In that case, a territory lord can find out what's going on with the feudal lords who are working for him immediately. Similarly, the feudal lords can promptly inform the territory lord about anomalies taking place in their fiefs." Indeed. It's one of the basic uses of the black ink nests. Yang Kai fell silent. It wasn't until this moment that he obtained an answer to a question he had pondered for a long time. When he pretended to be a black ink disciple and stayed by Enyu Yang's side in the past, the old ancestor from Blue Sky Pass had led his subordinates to launch a raid on the Black Ink clan's territory. However, the royal lord reacted very swiftly to it, limiting the amount of damage that could be done. Yang Kai had always been curious how the royal lord received the news and made a move so quickly given the vast distances between the royal city and the outer borders of the Black Ink clan's territory. Moreover, all the Black Ink clansmen in the entire Blue Sky Theater were mobilized alongside him. In fact, the humans had never been able to figure it out. They speculated that the Black Ink clan had a special method of communicating with each other. Perhaps something similar to a space array. Now, it seemed that the method of communication between the Black Ink clan was far more profound than mere space arrays. The black ink nests that were scattered around the void formed into a huge information network for the Black Ink clan. Whenever anything happened in the areas occupied by these black ink nests, the Black Ink clan would instantly find out about it and spread it to others. When the humans invaded the Black Ink clan's territory back then, the news must have been spread around through the black ink nests instantaneously. That was the reason that the royal lord could counterattack so swiftly by gathering all Black Ink clansmen under his command together. It was no wonder that the black ink nests were touted as the foundation of the Black Ink clan. This communication function alone was invaluable. So, the black ink nest's consciousness can carry a human's mind as well, Jia Yu suddenly tutted. Apparently, he had no idea that Yang Kai could successfully enter the domain of the Territory Lord's black ink nest prior to that. "I was just giving it a try. I hope I haven't caused any damage to your black ink nest, Brother Jia Yu." Yang Kai came to his senses and apologized to him. He just wanted to find out whether the world force coming from his small universe would be absorbed by the black ink nest. He hadn't expected that he would easily come into contact with the black ink nest's mindless will, which led to the discovery later. This was all just a coincidence. Jia Yu replied with a smile, "It's fine. The consciousness of any black ink nest is just a medium, so no damage would be caused to it. In fact, most feudal lords have a lot of things to deal with, so they wouldn't stay inside the domain of the Territory Lord's black ink nest all the time. The consciousnesses you came across are likely the trusted aides of those feudal lords. I'll also get one of my subordinates to stay here to gather information eventually. I see, Yang Kai nodded lightly. By pretending to be a Black Ink disciple this time, Yang Kai managed to find out a lot of secrets about the Black Ink nests. These secrets alone were worth his efforts. After all, these were the secrets that the humans had been trying to uncover forever, but to no avail. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5082, Black Ink Pool. As for who would be appointed by Jia Jiyu to stay in this Black Ink nest and gather information, Yang Kai couldn't care less. Jia Jiyu had several dozen Black Ink clansmen working for him, but they were generally weak. There were only a small number of high-rank Black Ink clansmen who were equivalent to sixth-order humans. The person responsible for gathering information would be one of those high-rank Black Ink clansmen. Let's continue, Jia Jiyu said, then led the way for Yang Kai. Soon, they went further inside and arrived at a room that was so large that it occupied half of the Black Ink nest's internal space. Flesh walls were seen squirming around the room, and in the center was something that looked like a pool. The diameter of the pool was several dozen meters across and it was filled with Black Ink strength. Jia Jiyu approached the pool as he stared at it while speaking solemnly. The Black Ink pool can be said to be the origin of life to all Black Ink clansmen. Black Ink pool. Yang Kai arched his brow as he gazed at the pool and fell into a state of contemplation. He couldn't figure out the abstrusity of this thing, nor could he understand what Jia Jiyu meant when the latter said it was the origin of life. However, he soon realized what he meant. Jia Jiyu suddenly fished out a lot of resources from his space ring and dumped them into the Black Ink pool without hesitation. The resources were of varying orders and were the same ones human cultivators could use to increase the heritage of their small universes. The moment the resources came into contact with the Black Ink pool, the Black Ink strength, which was originally as calm as a still lake, started roiling. It was like water being dropped into boiling oil. Besides that, the entire Black Ink pool seemed to have turned into a hideous beast as a series of chattering sounds were heard, like were invisible teeth that were crunching on those resources. The various resources were crushed as their powers were absorbed. Following that, beneath the ground around the Black Ink pool, energies could be seen moving in all directions. Yang Kai stared at those moving energies in shock. As they streamed into the flesh walls around the room, bulges started forming on those rough walls. They looked just like tumors. Life auras were being nurtured in those tumors. Yang Kai fell into a dazed state. More and more tumors were formed, and within an hour, by the time Jia Jiyu finished throwing all the resources into the Black Ink pool, there were several hundred tumors on the walls. Every tumor contained a new life aura. Yang Kai felt a crawling sensation on his scalp, but he forced himself to calm down and asked, "Brother Jia Jiyu, these?" Jia Jiyu replied with a smile, "In 1 or 2 months, they'll become residents of my territory." I knew it. Despite knowing that Black Ink clansmen were born in Black Ink nests, Yang Kai was still shaken to the core when he saw it happen before his eyes. That was how Black Ink clansmen were born. The auras in those tumors were all new Black Ink clansmen. Jagu's words suggested that it would only take 1 or 2 months for these Black Ink clansmen to be born. The speed was truly horrifying. Moreover, Jagu's Black Ink nest hadn't fully grown yet. He said that he didn't have enough resources with him now, for the resources were needed for other matters. When he had more resources in the future, he would continue growing the Black Ink nest. Although the Black Ink nest wasn't fully grown, it could still nurture several hundred Black Ink clansmen at once. According to Yang Kai's estimation, if the feudal lord's Black Ink nest was fully grown, and given enough resources, it could nurture more than 1,000 Black Ink clansmen at a given time. More than 1,000 Black Ink clansmen being born every month or two would translate to 7,000 to 8,000 a year. Further down the road, there would be 70,000 to 80,000 new Black Ink clansmen in 10 years and several 100,000 in 100 years. Certainly, a feudal lord wouldn't have an infinite supply of resources to squander on such things, but despite that, it was still a terrifying figure. It was no wonder that they were unable to kill all of the Black Ink clansmen. The humans from different great passes would always defeat the Black Ink clan and kill many of them in every major battle. However, after resting for at most 100 years, the Black Ink clan would strike again without any discernible decrease in number. The way Black Ink nests nurtured new Black Ink clansmen was the fundamental reason behind this. Upon that realization, Yang Kai felt his heart sinking. He asked solemnly, "Brother Jia Jiyu, how powerful will these Black Ink clansmen be after they're born?" Jia Jiyu replied, "New Black Ink clansmen are naturally weak and useless. It will take them several dozen years to grow to be low-rank Black Ink clansmen. 200 to 300 years after that, a small number of them will grow to be high-rank clansmen. As for how far they can go following that, it will depend on their own fates." Yang Kai nodded gently. It seemed that even though it would take a shorter time for the Black Ink clansmen to grow up than the humans, it wasn't intolerable. It would take them several dozen years to grow to be low-rank clansmen, which were equivalent to low-rank Open Heaven Masters. Such Black Ink clansmen were essentially useless on the battlefield and would only serve as cannon fodder to deplete the humans' energy. A competent feudal lord should be able to enlist 3,000 Black Ink clansmen who are able to fight when Sir Territory Lord goes to war. It's still in the early phase for me, so it will be several hundred to 1,000 years before I can do that. Out of the 3,000 Black Ink clansmen who were able to fight, at least half of them had to be high-rank Black Ink clansmen who were equivalent to the 4th, 5th, and 6th order humans. Otherwise, they would only be giving the humans free military merits. According to the life cycle of the Black Ink clansman, it would indeed take Jia Jiyu several hundred to 1,000 years to meet this requirement. Otherwise, there wouldn't be enough time for his subordinates to grow. Yang Kai made some calculations in silence. A feudal lord with a fief could conscript 3,000 Black Ink clansmen when war broke out. There were dozens of feudal lords working for He Yuan, but only a small number of them had their own fiefs. In other words, He Yuan alone would be able to mobilize about 30,000 to 40,000 Black Ink clansmen. That was the number of Black Ink clansmen that a territory lord could use. On the other hand, every royal lord had several dozen territory lords. Once a royal lord called for war, several 100,000 to 1,000,000 soldiers could be brought together in every theater before they would storm the Great Passes controlled by the humans. The humans from different Great Passes had spent countless years fending off such a large number of Black Ink clansmen. The Black Ink clan were at an advantage because of their larger numbers. On the other hand, the humans heavily relied on warships, which were their unique advantage. If this advantage was taken away by the Black Ink clan, the humans wouldn't be able to defend the Great Passes. At that instant, Yang Kai felt a hefty weight on his shoulders. Upon learning the abstrusity of the Black Ink nest's consciousness and witnessing the process of breeding Black Ink clansmen through the Black Ink pool, Yang Kai finally understood the secrets behind the Black Ink nests. Next, Jia Jiyu led him to explore other places in the Black Ink nest. Half a day later, they left the together. Jia Jiyu was still evidently excited. After all, his dream had finally come true, so it was expected that he was in a joyful mood. That was the reason he led Yang Kai to take a stroll around the Black Ink nest. He wanted to share his joy with others, but Yang Kai was the only outsider by his side. "By the way, you can continue refining artifacts over there, Brother Yang." Jia Jiyu finally recalled what he was supposed to do. After all, the reason he was able to get this fief had something to do with Yang Kai's skills in artifact refining. Upon finishing his words, he pointed in a particular direction. Yang Kai looked in the same direction and saw a huge star in the void. It was originally a giant sun star, but it's dead now. However, there still should be a great amount of heat beneath the surface, which will be useful to you when you make artifacts, Jia Jiyu explained. The reason he decided to hatch his Black Ink nest in this universe world was that this place was not far from the sun star, so he could move back and forth between the two places with ease. A sun star? Yang Kai arched his brow. There was no doubt that a sun star, even a dead one, would contain the power of the great sun. Jia Jiyu nodded. "I know nothing about artifact refining, so you can go over and look for a place that is suitable. I'll not keep you company as the Black Ink nest in this fief has just been hatched, so I need to take care of it." "It's fine. I'll be fine on my own," Yang Kai nodded. "Take this. These are the materials for making artifacts provided by a customer. There's also a list of demands he has come up with. You just have to follow the specifications. When I settle things here, I'll look for you." As Jia Jiyu spoke, he passed him a space ring. After taking the ring, Yang Kai scanned it with his divine sense and realized that there were indeed materials for making artifacts inside it. The number of materials suggested that he would have to make more than one artifact, and there was also a jade slip that supposedly contained the customer's demands. After bidding Jia Jiyu farewell, he directly flew towards the great sun star. In just 2 hours, Yang Kai arrived at his destination. When he arrived in the 3,000 worlds for the first time, Yang Kai came across a dying sun star where he obtained the Golden Crow's true fire that would be used to condense his fire element in his Dao seal. For that reason, he became tangled up with the proprietress. All of those memories flashed through his head. Many years had passed in the blink of an eye. At that time, the sun star he saw was dying, but the one before his eyes now died a long time ago. Although the great sun had lost all its vitality, some heat could still be felt coming from the surface. The entire star was filled with solidified magma, and a pungent smell permeated the place. There was no doubt that this environment was hostile and the average person wouldn't be able to survive here for long. With that said, Yang Kai was now a 7th-order open heaven realm master, so he was able to put up with this kind of environment. In fact, with the power of the Golden Crow's true fire in possession, he didn't need to rely on any external forces when making artifacts. It was just that by using an external aid he would be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. Therefore, a lot of artifact refiners loved using great sources of fire when making artifacts. It was the same case for alchemists. After circling around the great sun for a bit, Yang Kai soon found a suitable location that looked like the caldera of a volcano that led to the depths beneath the ground. He directly plunged inside, but he was soon blocked by some solidified magma. He summoned his azure dragon spear and began digging deeper into the ground. The further he went, the more scorching the air felt. Soon, he directly plunged into an ocean of burning magma. It went to show that even though the great sun died a long time ago, its power still hadn't fully dissipated. This kind of power was suitable for refining artifacts. After breaking through the magma, Yang Kai arrived at the sun's core. It was then he activated his power and formed an empty space. This was the deepest part of the great sun where he could use its power with ease. Looking around, he was pleased with this place. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5083, Hei Yuan leaves the black ink nest. Over the following half a month, Yang Kai spent a fair amount of time setting up a simple array so that he could make use of the great sun's power to craft artifacts. Additionally, the array stabilized the space he had opened up at the center of the sun. After he was done with all of that, he got some rest for a few days to restore his energy. It was only then that he started refining artifacts. He fished out the jade slip given to him by Jia Jiyu and realized that he had to make 2 artifacts this time. One of them was offensive while the other one was defensive. He wondered who this black ink clansman was. Regardless, it was none of his business, he just had to craft the artifacts according to the demands. With the help of the great sun's power, he had indeed become more efficient in refining artifacts. Furthermore, his skills in artifact refining had been improving day by day. In just 3 months, he was done crafting these 2 artifacts. There was already a black ink clansman waiting for him outside of the array he set up. In fact, this black ink clansman had been there for half a month. Yang Kai was aware of this, but his focus was on refining the artifacts, so he decided to ignore him. Now that he was done, Yang Kai opened up the restrictions and let this person in. The black ink clansman, who had never dared to disturb Yang Kai, instantly noticed and dashed forward before cupping his fist. Sir Yang. Perhaps the only black ink disciples who could be addressed as sirs by the black ink clansman were artifact refiners. Yang Kai glanced at him and realized that this black ink clansman was a high-rank black ink clansman who worked for Jia Jiyu. He had also followed Jia Jiyu to come all the way here to this fief. After a nod, Yang Kai asked, "Has Brother Jia Jiyu sent you here to tell me something?" The high-rank black ink clansman stepped forward and held out a space ring. Sir Jia Jiyu said, "This is the next artifact you have to make. The materials, demands, and payment are all inside. Additionally, he wants me to retrieve the artifacts you've refined." Yang Kai took the space ring and realized that just like what the Black Ink Clansman had said, there were a lot of materials for artifact refining, a jade slip with the specifications recorded in it, and 7,000 black ink coins inside the ring. Upon confirmation, Yang Kai passed him the 2 artifacts he had recently made and put on a bitter smile. "Your sir doesn't even give me some rest time." The high-rank Black Ink Clansman put on a fawning smile. "Sir Jia Jiyu said that your skills in artifact refining are exceptional. Many feudal lords have heard about you, so they want you to make artifacts for them. It's fine. I'm earning black ink coins to buy some cultivation resources anyway. Just tell your sir that he can accept all the orders. I'm fine with it." "Yes," the high-rank Black Ink Clansman replied, then asked, "When should I come again?" After giving it a thought, Yang Kai said, "For each artifact, you can come again after 2 months." He then watched the high-rank Black Ink Clansman leave and reactivated the restriction. Instead of starting right away, Yang Kai fished out a set of 7th-order materials from his small universe and began refining them. During this period of time, he had been busy refining artifacts for the feudal lords. In Jia Gu's previous territory, it wasn't convenient for him to refine 7th-order materials. After all, Jia Jiyu might come over at any moment. It would be hard for Yang Kai to explain himself if Jia Jiyu saw him refining such expensive materials. Now that he was inside a great sun though, and with the arrays he had set up, he didn't have to worry about privacy. On the other hand, since he had helped so many feudal lords craft artifacts, his skill in the Tao of artifact refining must be well known by now. That was exactly what he had hoped to see, and the high-rank Black Ink Clansman's statement just now proved this point. Everything was going according to plan, and Yang Kai just had to wait for He Yuan to leave the black ink nest. The days went by slowly. Jia Jiyu would send someone to pass Yang Kai materials for artifact refining and payment for his services every 2 months. Most of the time, it would be the same high-rank Black Ink Clansman who looked for Yang Kai. Jia Jiyu had just obtained his own fief, so he seemed to be swamped with work and would only visit Yang Kai sporadically. Nevertheless, the high-rank clansman wouldn't stay for a long time. After passing Yang Kai the space ring that contained the materials and money, he would take the artifact that had been made and leave. 5 years passed by in the blink of an eye. Including the amount of time Yang Kai had spent in Jia Gu's previous castle, he had now been refining artifacts for the Black Ink feudal lords for 7 or 8 years. During this period of time, he had produced dozens of artifacts that were all high quality. Given his near-complete focus on artifact refining, Yang Kai's comprehension of the Tao of artifact refining had improved significantly. However, he didn't feel one bit pleased about it. That was because he knew that every artifact he refined would be of great help to the Black Ink clan on the battlefield. Those artifacts might injure or even kill human soldiers. He had thought about pulling some tricks by designing the artifacts in a way that they would collapse when the Black Ink clansmen clashed with the humans. However, even though he could be considered a great master when it came to his mastery of artifact refining, he was not able to do such a thing without anyone discovering it. If he really tried, the feudal lords would realize it very quickly, and that would only destroy the reputation he had built up and derail his following plan. Hence, he decided to give up on the idea. Although Yang Kai had spent most of his time refining artifacts over the past few years, he would still take some time off to cultivate after crafting each item. As time passed, he managed to make up for some of the losses in his heritage due to the fact that he had sacrificed a part of his small universe in the past. He had been waiting for He Yuan to summon him, but his wish was still not granted. Supposedly, He Yuan should have left the Black Ink nest by now. Although he was badly injured, his speed of recovery shouldn't be so slow with the help of the Black Ink nest. Yang Kai wondered what was going on. One day, Jia Jiyu came over as usual. After getting the artifact from Yang Kai and passing him the next set of materials, Jia Jiyu thanked him and was preparing to leave. "Wait a moment, brother Jia Jiyu," Yang Kai said. Jia Jiyu turned around and asked with a smile, "What's wrong, brother Yang?" Over the years, he had earned a huge fortune through Yang Kai's skills in artifact refining. Gui Liao did indeed have wealthy friends who willingly paid 100,000 black ink coins for a single artifact without blinking an eye. Besides that, those feudal lords were eager to get their hands on the artifacts made by Yang Kai. According to Gui Liao, there were still more than 10 feudal lords who were waiting to order their artifacts. They would charge 100,000 coins for an artifact, and other than the 7,000 given to Yang Kai, Jia Jiyu and Gui Liao would respectively split the rest. Hence, Jia Jiyu gained 46,500 black ink coins for every artifact. 100,000 was just the amount that Gui Liao told him though, and Jia Jiyu even suspected that Gui Liao would charge his customers a higher fee. Nevertheless, he wasn't in any place to demand more. Over the past 5 years, Yang Kai had produced more than 30 artifacts, so not only had Jia Jiyu paid back the black ink coins he owed Gui Liao, but there was a lot of surplus. Now, he focused on managing his own fief, so all the black ink coins he earned would be used to build up his territory. Now, his fief was really beginning to take shape. Not only had Jia Jiyu nurtured several tens of thousands of black ink clansmen through the black ink nest, but he had also attracted many black ink clansmen from other places to settle down in his territory. It could be said that he owed his success to Yang Kai, so he was naturally quite friendly with him. Without beating around the bush, Yang Kai asked, "Do you know what's going on with Sir Territory Lord? Has he left the black ink nest?" Upon hearing that, Jia Jiyu shook his head. "I don't think Sir Territory Lord has left the black ink nest. I suppose he's still recuperating." Yang Kai frowned. "Why is it taking Sir so long to recover? It's been nearly 8 years since he returned. Supposedly, he should have left the black ink nest a long time ago." Jia Jiyu nodded. "Usually, it wouldn't take Sir such a long time, 3 to 4 years at most. However, you're also aware that Sir Territory Lord wasn't the only one who entered the black ink nest to recuperate. There were several other territory lords as well, and their injuries were even more severe than Sir Territory Lord's. Although the black ink nest can help Sir recuperate, there are several territory lords who need to share that power, hence, it's not as effective as when he's on his own. That's the reason it's taking him a longer time to recuperate." This was the information Jia Jiyu obtained from Gui Liao. After all, he and Gui Liao knew that once He Yuan left the black ink nest, Yang Kai, as his black ink disciple, would be summoned no matter what. By then, their business of selling artifacts would come to a halt. Certainly, Jia Jiyu wanted this business to last as long as possible. Therefore, he asked Gui Liao about He Yuan's condition. What he told Yang Kai just now was the information he had obtained from Gui Liao. Upon hearing his explanation, Yang Kai replied, "I see. Do you know when Sir Territory Lord will leave the black ink nest, then? It will happen within a year or two." As Jia Jiyu spoke, he patted the other man's shoulder. "Don't worry about it. Sir Territory Lord is powerful, so he'll be fine. However, after he leaves the black ink nest, you, as his black ink disciple, will have to go back to him. You won't stay here and keep making artifacts, so during this period of time, you have to work harder in order to earn more money to purchase cultivation resources." He thought that Yang Kai was worried about He Yuan, so he decided to placate him. Nevertheless, he still reminded Yang Kai to work harder to create more artifacts. Yang Kai nodded gently. "You have a point, brother Jia Jiyu." Upon learning that the reason He Yuan hadn't left the black ink nest after such a long time was that he was sharing its power with other territory lords, Yang Kai set his mind at ease. He was most worried that an accident might have happened to He Yuan. If He Yuan lost his life due to his severe injuries, things would become complicated. Yang Kai definitely didn't want to see that happen. After seeing Jia Jiyu off, he continued refining artifacts. Several months later, on the universe fragment belonging to He Yuan, the black ink nest, which had remained shut since the return of He Yuan and the other territory lords, shook a little. Following that, a portal opened up at the bottom of the black ink nest. Several burly figures stepped out from the portal, all of their auras thick and intimidating. The moment the black ink clansmen, who were guarding the black ink nest, saw these figures, they saluted them in a solemn manner. This couldn't be helped, as they were all territory lords. The person at the front was none other than the owner of this place, He Yuan. Of these territory lords, He Yuan looked perfectly healthy while the auras of the other territory lords were still a little unstable. It seemed that they hadn't fully recovered. That was indeed the case. After about 8 years of recuperation, their injuries had mostly healed, but they were still some distance away from full recovery. The only one who had fully recovered was He Yuan. Even though he was indeed a little stronger than the others, that had nothing to do with the speed of recovery. The main reason was that he was the owner of this black ink nest. By having full control over the black ink nest, he could direct most of its power to heal his injuries while the rest would be shared among the other territory lords. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5084, Territory Lord Summons. He Yuan would naturally recover much quicker than the other territory lords under such circumstances. It wasn't that he wanted to suppress the other territory lords, just that anyone would have done the same thing if they were in his position. In fact, if possible, He Yuan would rather have sent these territory lords back to their respective territories upon their return from the battlefield so that he wouldn't have to share the power of his black ink nest. However, those territory lords were horribly injured at that time as they had all fallen into a state of deep sleep, so he couldn't possibly toss them out. Left with no other choice, he brought them back to his own black ink nest and they recuperated together. That way, they could take care of each other. Despite all this, the territory lords were still grateful to He Yuan and not dissatisfied one bit. It was true that they hadn't fully recovered, but they were now able to protect themselves at the very least. They just had to return to their territories and get some more rest in their own black ink nests so that they would recover as time passed. The entire process would only take them a few more years. After stepping out of the black ink nest, the territory lords thanked He Yuan before shooting into the sky to leave in a hurry. This was He Yuan's territory after all, so it wasn't appropriate for them to linger here. They naturally had to go back to their territories. He Yuan watched them leave. Not long after the territory lords left, Gui Liao, who had received the news, led a group of black ink clansmen and arrived at this place in a rush to welcome He Yuan. Soon, they returned to the castle. After He Yuan was seated on his throne, Gui Liao stood in front of him and reported to him about what had happened in the territory over the years in a respectful manner. He Yuan listened to him in silence. No major events had taken place over the past few years. The humans were recuperating, and there hadn't been any serious conflicts between the two races, hence, Gui Liao was done with his report soon. He Yuan nodded and praised him by saying, "You've done a great job." Gui Liao replied humbly, "It is all thanks to Sir's excellent management of the territory. I am just taking care of it on your behalf, so I wouldn't dare to take the credit." He Yuan didn't comment on it. Suddenly, he asked, "The new black ink disciple named Yang Kai that I've taken on is an artifact refiner?" There wasn't a hint of surprise on Gui Liao's face as he replied respectfully, "Yes, he has refined a lot of artifacts for the feudal lords over the years." He Yuan had been recuperating in the black ink nest since his return, and he had never come into contact with anyone else. Despite that, he was still aware of all this information thanks to the black ink nest. The realm built on the black ink nest's consciousness was where the feudal lords would communicate with each other. Certainly, these exchanges couldn't be hidden from the primary black ink nest's owner. In other words, as long as He Yuan wanted to, he could monitor all the conversations that took place within that domain while he was recuperating inside his black ink nest. Many feudal lords were aware that Yang Kai was an artifact refiner, so they would certainly talk about it. It was expected that He Yuan would become aware of this fact. Furthermore, Gui Liao knew that this fact couldn't be hidden from He Yuan, so he never attempted to do so. The feudal lords seemed to be pleased with the artifacts he's made. "What do you think about his skills in artifact refining?" He Yuan asked. Gui Liao replied, "I have no idea how the humans classify the skills of an artifact refiner, but I think that he's fairly talented in artifact refining. The artifacts made by him are just as good as the ones owned by the humans. With those artifacts in possession, the feudal lords have enjoyed varying degrees of increase in their strengths. This will help them tremendously when they go to war." He Yuan nodded lightly. "Since you've said as much, it must mean he's truly skillful in artifact refining." He couldn't help but be surprised. It never crossed his mind that the black ink disciple he had taken on was a valuable artifact refiner. The reason he decided to personally corrupt Yang Kai was that the latter had showcased exceptional combat strength back then. Other than being powerful, Yang Kai was also an expert in artifact refining. It seemed that He Yuan had accidentally picked up a treasure. A few years ago, he lost the resource harvesting area to the enemy, and many of his soldiers were killed during the war, so the royal lord would definitely punish him. As a territory lord, He Yuan wouldn't be slapped with a serious punishment. A part of his territory would be taken from him at most. However, he wouldn't want to see that happen. Nevertheless, he could probably make up for the losses by presenting a skilled artifact refiner to the royal lord. Certainly, he would feel heartbroken letting such a talented person go, but since Yang Kai was an artifact refiner, he would have to take part in that plan. Regardless of whether He Yuan wanted to make up for his losses or not, he couldn't keep Yang Kai by his side, otherwise, he wouldn't be able to bear the royal lord's wrath. Where is he now? He Yuan asked all of a sudden. Gui Liao replied honestly, he's in Jagu's place. There's a dead great sun star that is useful for him to refine artifacts with. Tell him to come over and see me now. Yes. 4 hours later, Yang Kai, who was refining an artifact, realized that the restriction was touched, which caused him to frown. Over the years, Jagu's subordinate would always wait outside of the restriction instead of triggering it, so this behavior was a little unusual. Moreover, he could sense that the person triggering the restriction was none other than Jia Jiyu himself. Yang Kai initially decided to ignore him. After all, he was in the final stage of refining the artifact he was working on, and it would be completed in just 3 to 5 days. Jia Jiyu waited for a bit, but upon seeing that the restriction was not open, he directly broke it and entered. The restriction Yang Kai had set up was a simple one, not something powerful, so it was easy for a feudal lord like Jia Jiyu to break it. This caused Yang Kai to be disturbed, and the artifact in his hands that was about to take shape became contorted. After taking a glance at it, Jia Jiyu knew that the artifact must have been ruined because of what he had done. However, that was the least of his concerns now, as he promptly said, "Sir Territory Lord has left the Black Ink Nest, Brother Yang. He wants to see you now. Sir has left the Black Ink Nest." Yang Kai was surprised. Previously, Jia Jiyu told him that it would only happen after a year or two, but only half a year had passed since then. However, since He Yuan wanted to see him, there was no way Yang Kai could tarry. After all, he was technically He Yuan's Black Ink disciple. "I'll set off immediately then. What about this artifact?" Yang Kai turned to look at the warped artifact. Jia Jiyu replied, "It's fine. I'll pay for the loss. Don't worry about it." "Sorry for the trouble then, Brother Jia Jiyu." Yang Kai cupped his fist. "Since I'm going back to Sir Territory Lord's side, I guess I won't have a chance to work with you and refine artifacts again. Please take care of yourself. We'll definitely meet again if there's a chance. Farewell." "I'll see you off," Jia Jiyu said. A moment later, they dashed out of the great sun star together. After flying alongside Yang Kai for a while, Jia Jiyu stopped in his tracks and fished out a space ring. "Many thanks for your hard work, Brother Yang. It's been a pleasure cooperating with you over the years. Please take this little gift that I've prepared." "There's no need for this." Yang Kai was ready to turn him down. Nevertheless, Jia Jiyu directly stuffed the ring into his hands. "I've earned quite a few black ink coins over the years thanks to your skills. You're the one who has been working hard, and there's nothing much I can help you with. This is what you deserve, so don't turn me down. Since you've said so much, I'll accept it. Many thanks. Farewell." Jia Jiyu waved his hand. It seemed that he wasn't willing to part with him. Yang Kai cupped his fist and left the place. As Jia Jiyu watched him leave, he let out a long sigh. Over the years, he had earned about 1.5 million black ink coins thanks to Yang Kai. That was the amount of money he made in less than 10 years. A human artifact refiner like Yang Kai was simply a money tree to him. Certainly, he wasn't willing to let him go. However, he wouldn't dare to disobey the Territory Lord's order. He probably would never have a chance to make easy money like this again. It was expected that he was heartbroken and disappointed. A long time after Yang Kai's figure was out of sight, Jia Jiyu forced himself to turn around and return to his territory. Fortunately, his fief was on the right track now, and the Black Ink Nest was fully hatched. He had the capital to gain a footing, which was unlike in the past when he had the title and power of a feudal lord, but not the wealth and influence to match it. After leaving Jargu's place, Yang Kai looked into the space ring given to him and realized that there were only 10,000 black ink coins in it. He couldn't help but break into laughter, thinking that Jargu was truly stingy. Although he wasn't aware of the exact amount Jargu charged the other feudal lords, as he had been focused on refining artifacts over the years, he at least knew that Jargu wasn't being honest with him. When he started refining artifacts for Jargu back then, the latter was broke. So how did Jargu get 500,000 black ink coins to buy a subnest in just 3 years and even purchase a lot of resources to hatch it? Yang Kai was clearly the one who helped him earn that money. In other words, the price Jargu told him was a bald-faced lie. He must have been charging far more than 10,000 black ink coins per artifact. Despite knowing all of that, Yang Kai didn't intend to settle accounts with him. Black ink coins were useless to him. He just wanted to make himself known as a competent artifact refiner. Fortunately, everything was going according to plan. Yang Kai was glad that after accepting this task in Blue Sky Pass back then, he spent the next 10 years studying the Tao of artifact refining. Otherwise, he wouldn't know where to start after arriving in the Black Ink Clan's domain. Since He Yuan had left the Black Ink Nest, Yang Kai couldn't help feeling apprehensive, as it was now the most critical moment. One day later, Yang Kai arrived at the castle on the universe fragment, and soon, he was granted an audience with He Yuan. Inside the grand hall, Yang Kai finally saw He Yuan again after 8 years. After saluting him, Yang Kai stood respectfully in front of him. He could feel that He Yuan was examining him. On the other hand, Gui Liao was just standing beside He Yuan in a subservient manner, no longer displaying any haughtiness. "Your small universe has fully healed?" He Yuan suddenly asked. Gui Liao, who had been standing there in silence, suddenly lifted his gaze and glanced at Yang Kai. He had never expected this to be the first question He Yuan asked Yang Kai. In fact, this matter had something to do with him. He could do whatever he wanted when He Yuan wasn't around. However, since He Yuan was here, he was worried that Yang Kai would say something that would put him in an unfavorable position. Yang Kai happened to look at him as well, and as their eyes met, Gui Liao felt his chest tightening. He suddenly had a bad premonition. Just as expected, Yang Kai grinned at him and cupped his fist. "Master, I asked Jargu to help me buy a profound yin spirit fruit previously. After acquiring it, I managed to heal my small universe." Upon hearing that, He Yuan frowned. "Why did you ask Jargu to help you buy a profound yin spirit fruit? Didn't I tell Gui Liao to get you one before entering the Black Ink Nest?" Yang Kai replied impassively, "You'll have to ask Sir Gui Liao about that." He Yuan instantly turned to look at Gui Liao. Martial Peak, Chapter 5085, Progressing Smoothly. Gui Liao turned around and saluted He Yuan before explaining, "Sir, as you know, it is difficult to acquire profound yin spirit fruits. After you started recuperating, I did my best to look for one, but was regretfully unsuccessful in short order. Because of that, Yang Kai might have misunderstood my intentions. After asking for the spirit fruit several times but to no avail, he got into a conflict with my black ink disciple, Liu Zian. I punished them respectively. After that, Yang Kai became furious and left the castle. It wasn't until you summoned him that he returned. Is that the case?" He Yuan frowned. Yang Kai replied dispassionately, "I'm not sure if Sir Gui Liao had done his best to look for the spirit fruit. However, after I went to Jargu's place and promised that I would refine 2 artifacts for him, he obtained a profound yin spirit fruit for me within 3 days. Gui Liao explained, "That was when the profound yin spirit fruits became available in the territory. I seized the chance and bought one, thinking that I'd give it to you when you came back, but you didn't seem to have the intention of returning." Upon finishing his words, he fished out a box from his space ring and opened it. There was a profound yin spirit fruit sitting inside it. Yang Kai widened his eyes and secretly cursed at him, thinking that Gui Liao must have prepared it beforehand. Gui Liao sighed, "You never showed up, and I didn't know where you were. It wasn't until a long time later that I found out you had been refining artifacts in Jargu's place, and your small universe had fully recovered." At that instant, Yang Kai was lost for words despite feeling aggrieved. He initially wanted to expose Gui Liao to He Yuan, but he hadn't expected that this guy had already come up with an immaculate explanation. Now, he was in a dilemma. After pulling himself together, Yang Kai adjusted and said, "In that case, I must have misunderstood you, Sir Gui Liao. Please accept my apology. It's fine. You are Sir Territory Lord's Black Ink disciple. Since it was his order, I would definitely do my best to execute it." Gui Liao emphasized his loyalty to He Yuan. He Yuan wasn't willing to waste his time dealing with such a minor issue, so he waved his hand and said, "Since it's a misunderstanding, let's end this matter here. Now that your small universe is complete, you won't face any issues when cultivating." Gazing at Yang Kai, he changed the topic by saying, "You're an expert in artifact refining?" Yang Kai replied respectfully, "I wouldn't dare to say that I'm an expert in artifact refining, I simply know a thing or two about it." He Yuan nodded lightly and extended his hand towards Gui Liao, who got the hint and hurriedly fished out a lance from his space ring before shuffling towards Yang. "Did you make this artifact?" He Yuan asked. After taking the lance, Yang Kai examined it and recognized that it was an artifact he made. Furthermore, if he wasn't mistaken, it was the first artifact he crafted after he followed Jia Jiyu to his new fief. Although he had crafted quite a number of artifacts over the years, there wasn't an overwhelming number of them, therefore, he could remember every piece distinctly. This lance was one of the artifacts he was tasked to refine at that time, together with an artifact armor that could cover the upper half of the body. As he recalled the customer's demands and the specifications of the artifact armor, Yang Kai instantly realized that Gui Liao was the patron who wanted him to make the lance and artifact armor. It seemed that Gui Liao had already come into contact with Jia Jiyu at that point in time. The reason Jia Jiyu could obtain his new fief might even have something to do with Gui Liao. Yang Kai stopped pondering on it and nodded, "I was the one who made it." Upon hearing that, He Yuan became energized. "How long did it take you to make it?" Yang Kai replied, "About 2 months." He Yuan's eyes brightened, "It only took you 2 months to make such an artifact. It seems that you really are skillful in artifact refining. Many thanks for your praise, Master. According to human standards, I am barely qualified to be called a great master when it comes to my skills in artifact refining. This is already the best I can make. It's already incredible that you're able to refine such artifacts. I'm sure you're aware that due to the Black Ink clan's unique powers, we're not proficient in artifact refining. Therefore, it's difficult for us to get artifacts that suit us. That's why human artifact refiners are valued highly among the Black Ink clan." To the side, Gui Liao smiled and nodded, "You're right, sir. Great master artifact refiners like Yang Kai are even rarer. Given enough time to grow, he'll be able to create even better artifacts." He Yuan looked fervently at Yang Kai. "If I want you to focus on crafting artifacts, how much do you think you can improve on your artifact refining skills?" "Focus on crafting artifacts." Yang Kai appeared bewildered. "Master, please understand that the Tao of artifact refining is just a hobby of mine. I hope that I can focus on martial Tao so that I will be able to assist you out on the battlefield." A gratified He Yuan nodded, "That's very thoughtful of you. However, what if I insist that you focus on the Tao of artifact refining?" Without hesitation, Yang Kai replied, "Since it is your order, Master, I will definitely obey it." "However." "Go on," He Yuan said. "I do not have an exceptional aptitude in the Tao of artifact refining. Regardless of how hard I try, at best I will become a grandmaster in the future. There is no possibility I can become a great grandmaster." "You have a chance to become a grandmaster?" He Yuan's eyes lit up as he laughed. "Wonderful." A hesitant Yang Kai asked, "Do you need me to make any artifacts for you, Master?" "If that is the case, I shall do my best not to disappoint you. I do need you to refine an artifact for me, but," He Yuan caught himself and paused for a moment, "go back and get some rest first. You will accompany me somewhere in a few days." Despite appearing puzzled, Yang Kai saluted him and left the hall. After he was gone, Gui Liao asked, "Are you bringing him to the royal city, sir?" An excited He Yuan nodded, "Yes. The royal lord has already given the order that whenever we find human artifact refiners in our territories, we have to send them to the royal city. I've told you the reason behind it, so I'm sure you still remember it. Yes, Gui Liao replied respectfully. How is the royal lord's plan progressing, sir? At the mention of this, He Yuan appeared worried. It's not going well. Although some prototypes have been made, they're weak and unreliable, totally incomparable to the warships owned by the humans. That's why they desperately need skilled artifact refiners. Yang Kai is a great master now, and he might grow to become a grandmaster one day. Perhaps he won't be able to take charge of the plan, but he can surely help out in some important parts. Someone like him is exactly what the royal lord needs. He Yuan then let out a sigh. It's a shame. He was quite strong after all. The reason he personally corrupted Yang Kai back then was that the latter had showcased exceptional combat power. However, compared to Yang Kai's strength, the royal lord's plan was definitely more important. He Yuan had no choice but to let him go. Yang Kai was told to wait for a few days before leaving with He Yuan. Although he pretended to be perplexed, he knew that his plans were progressing smoothly. He reckoned that He Yuan was bringing him to see the royal lord. This made him feel both excited and anxious. He was excited because everything was going according to plan. If nothing unexpected happened, he would soon figure out who were the human artifact refiners that made artifacts for the Black Ink clan as well as their whereabouts. On the other hand, he was anxious because it wasn't easy to deal with a royal lord, who was as powerful as a Ninth Order old ancestor. Faced with such a being, he wouldn't dare to say that he wouldn't be exposed. When he was in the royal city on his own, once his identity was exposed, he wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Instead of idling in the castle, Yang Kai headed to the city. Over the years, the main reason he worked with Jia Jiyu to refine artifacts was that he wanted to make himself known as an expert in artifact refining and attract He Yuan's attention. At the same time, he had also accumulated quite a lot of black ink coins. For every artifact he made, he received 7,000 black ink coins. Over the past 7 to 8 years, he had made about 50 artifacts and had thus earned more than 300,000 black ink coins. In fact, the purchasing power of black ink coins was incredible. Based on the conversion rate, 300,000 black ink coins would be equivalent to 3 billion open heaven pills. Although black ink coins were useless to Yang Kai, he could use them to purchase cultivation resources. This was the first time he brought so much money with him and bought things in the city, so he was curious about everything. There were quite a number of black ink disciples in the city, but they all followed behind their masters. He was the only black ink disciple who was on his own, which was why he caught the attention of many black ink clansmen. Although they were curious, they wouldn't dare to do anything to him upon detecting his 7th Order Open Heaven Realm cultivation. The person who could corrupt a 7th Order Open Heaven Realm master had to be a territory lord at the very least. Furthermore, they heard that the ruling territory lord here had taken on a 7th Order Black Ink disciple recently. Perhaps this human was that Black Ink disciple. Certainly, no one would dare to have their eyes on the territory lord's Black Ink disciple. There were a lot of shops in the city, and after visiting several of them, Yang Kai realized that the Black Ink clan possessed a truly massive amount of cultivation resources. After giving it a thought though, he realized that this wasn't surprising. The Black Ink battlefield was vast, and the Black Ink clan occupied most of it. There were countless universe worlds in those territories that could be mined, hence, they were not lacking cultivation resources. This was starkly different from the situation that the humans were in. They would only be able to snatch some resource harvesting areas and extract the resources there for a short period of time after defeating the Black Ink clan's army. After the Black Ink clan was done recuperating, the humans would have to give up those resource harvesting areas. This kind of cycle never ended. With that said, the Black Ink clan were unable to directly refine these resources to cultivate. Instead, they had to throw them into the Black Ink nests, which would produce Black Ink strength. It was only then that the Black Ink clansmen could make use of Black Ink strength. The resources that the human cultivators yearned for couldn't be directly used by the Black Ink clansmen. Therefore, these resources were surprisingly affordable in this Black Ink clan city. The 300,000 Black Ink coins that Yang Kai had were worth 3 billion open heaven pills. If he were in a city run by the humans, he would use up all the money purchasing 2 or 3 sets of 7th Order materials. Nevertheless, in this city, he managed to buy more than 10 sets of 7th order materials with his black ink coins. The difference between the purchasing powers of these two currencies was astonishing. Yang Kai suddenly felt regretful, thinking that he should have gotten some black ink coins from Zhongliang and the others when he was in Blue Sky Pass back then. The humans from the various Great Passes had amassed a staggering amount of black ink coins over the years, all of which were collected from the battlefield after they defeated the Black Ink clan over the years. They would pick up black ink coins from the dead Black Ink clansmen, but the money was useless to them, so they would just pile them up. Over the years, Blue Sky Pass had probably amassed trillions of black ink coins. If Yang Kai had brought those black ink coins with him, he could have snapped up all the resources in He Yuan's territory. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5086, Black Ink Clan's Plan. Certainly, it would cause a commotion if Yang Kai really did so. He just regretted that he hadn't brought a few million black ink coins with him, otherwise, he could have purchased a fair amount of resources without being noticed. More than 10 sets of 7th order material were nothing compared to his total wealth, but he could refine them without worrying about getting caught. This was the reason he left the castle to purchase resources. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to explain himself when He Yuan saw him refining resources. Without staying for a long time, he used up his black ink coins and returned to the castle to start cultivating. A few days later, He Yuan finally summoned him. Above an empty square in the middle of the castle, a large ship was hovering in mid-air. More than 100 black ink clansmen were ready to board the ship with He Yuan, including Yang Kai. This large ship wasn't a warship, it was just a flight-type artifact. Given Yang Kai's mastery of artifact refining, it would only take him some time to craft a similar ship. However, it would take him a longer time and more energy to build one than make an ordinary artifact. Over the years, none of the feudal lords that were his customers had asked him to make a flight-type artifact. To the feudal lords, artifacts that could save their lives or kill the enemies were far more important than flight-type artifacts. Furthermore, the materials used to build a flight-type artifact were more expensive than the ones used for making an ordinary artifact. I will return from the royal city soon. After I'm gone, you will manage the affairs in the territory, He Yuan said to Gui Liao. Don't worry, sir. I'll handle everything well, Gui Liao replied respectfully. He Yuan went on to say, when I come back, I'll let you enter the Black Ink Nest so that you can become a territory lord. You've accumulated enough over the years to do so. In an instant, Gui Liao became agitated. Many thanks, Sir Territory Lord. I'll not disappoint you. He Yuan nodded lightly, then said to the Black Ink clansman who was responsible for controlling the large ship, let's go. Following his order, the ship hummed and rose into the sky. After turning in a different direction, it transformed into a ray of light and left the place at the speed of lightning. On the deck, He Yuan stared out at the void and fell into his thoughts. Yang Kai just stood silently behind him in a subservient manner. I rarely turn humans. The last time I did so was 2,000 years ago. The Black Ink disciple I corrupted at that time was just like you. He was strong, He Yuan suddenly said. Yang Kai had no idea what the other man was trying to say. Although it seemed like a small talk, he didn't think a territory lord would waste his time in such a way. Hence, he decided to remain silent so that he wouldn't say anything wrong. He had followed me for 1,000 years and made a lot of contributions. Unfortunately, he was killed on the battlefield in the end. He Yuan sighed. Theoretically, a 7th order open heaven realm master is equivalent to a feudal lord. However, a 7th order human will always be stronger than ordinary feudal lords. The strongest ones are even able to wound newly promoted territory lords. Yang Kai explained, the cultivation of humans is all about accumulation. Even if two people are both in the 7th order open heaven realm, there might be a difference of several thousand years of cultivation between them. Hence, there is a huge gap in power between them. He Yuan nodded, it's all about accumulation for the humans, and it's the same case for the Black Ink clan. However, in general, it takes a shorter time for the Black Ink clan to mature than the humans. Moreover, all our ascensions rely on the Black Ink nests. Perhaps that is the reason the individual power of the Black Ink clan is weaker than that of the humans. Upon hearing that, Yang Kai was startled. I've never thought about it before. Without turning his head, He Yuan said with a smile, the humans rely on themselves to break through while the Black Ink clan have to make use of external aids to do so. That's the difference between us. However, humans are not comparable to us when it comes to population. We have an infinite supply of soldiers while there's only a limited number of human cultivators in each great pass. Despite that, rarely has any great pass been conquered over the years. Sometimes, I can't help but admire the humans' determination and perseverance. Yang Kai sensitively caught a piece of important information in He Yuan's words. Sir, you said rarely any great pass has been conquered before. Does that mean it has happened before? He Yuan turned to look at him and asked curiously, don't you know about it? It really happened before? Yang Kai felt his heart sinking. While remaining calm, he shook his head. I've never heard about it. In fact, it's only been a short time since I arrived at this battlefield. He Yuan nodded gently. It indeed happened a long time ago. The humans must be ashamed of this incident, so they naturally wouldn't spread it. Perhaps they've erased all records of it. Which of the great passes had been conquered before? Yang Kai knew that as a Black Ink disciple, he shouldn't have asked so many questions. Nevertheless, he couldn't suppress his curiosity. It happened so long ago that I can no longer remember it. Let me think. I believe it was called the Great Evolution Pass. Yes, it was the Great Evolution Pass. Great Evolution Pass. Great Evolution Paradise. Yang Kai was shaken to the core. The Great Passes were basically named after the cave heavens and paradises. At the mention of the Great Evolution Pass, Yang Kai could only think of Great Evolution Paradise. That was the paradise where Grandmaster Ma Fan came from. The good fortune divine furnace that could be used to derive higher-order materials from lower-order ones was one of Great Evolution Paradise's core inheritances. Back then, in order to fight for the right to use the good fortune divine furnace, the cave heavens and paradises haggled with Yang Kai for quite some time. Great Evolution Paradise was removed from the 72 paradises, and Grandmaster Ma Fan was just a remnant of Great Evolution Paradise. Yang Kai had always been curious about what kind of crisis such a paradise faced to cause its downfall. Now, it seemed that it had something to do with the fact that the Great Evolution Pass was conquered on the Black Ink battlefield. However, other than the old ancestors, no one else seemed aware of what had happened in the past. Even Grandmaster Ma Fan himself seemed unaware of the details. After all, he had never come to the Black Ink battlefield as he had always been living in the 3000 worlds. That is the only great pass we managed to conquer. There was a hint of displeasure in He Yuan's tone. Although we had many chances of conquering other great passes in the past, we'd always fail in our attempts in the end. The resilience and persistence of the humans is inconceivable. You are a human as well as a Black Ink disciple, so you surely understand humans and the Black Ink clan better than most. Do you know the strengths and weaknesses of the two races? Yang Kai was caught off guard as he was suddenly asked such a question, but after giving it a thought, he replied, just like what Master has said, the Black Ink clan have an unlimited supply of soldiers while there is a limited number of human cultivators. That's the advantage of the Black Ink clan. Also, Black Ink strength is a tricky problem for the humans. In the past, once they were invaded by Black Ink strength, they either had to sacrifice a part of their small universes or kill themselves on the spot. Otherwise, they would be turned into Black Ink disciples. However, since the humans invented purifying Black Ink pills, the threat of Black Ink strength has greatly diminished. Indeed. He Yuan snorted. Purifying Black Ink pills are being used by the humans to suppress Black Ink strength now. If we lose this advantage, it will be useless regardless of how many soldiers we have. The humans also have warships. That is their biggest advantage. A warship is the greatest weapon for both offense and defense. With only a small number of humans controlling the vessel, it can cause severe casualties on the battlefield. If the humans never had warships, they would have been destroyed by now. Yang Kai played along by saying, if the Black Ink clan also had warships, the humans wouldn't be a match for us. Unfortunately, it's extremely difficult to refine a warship. Only great grandmasters are able to do that. Although I know a thing or two about artifact refining, I'll never be able to make a warship in my lifetime regardless of how hard I try. He Yuan turned to look at him and smiled. While you can't do it, that doesn't mean no one else can make it. Yang Kai said curiously, Master, you mean? He Yuan went on to say, you're not the only one who has thought of this idea. In fact, the Royal Lord has been working towards this goal for a long time now. The Black Ink clan has been trying to create a warship, and we've achieved some success so far. Yang Kai instantly appeared shocked. There's a great Grandmaster artifact refiner in the Black Ink clan? He Yuan shook his head. I have no idea whether he's a great Grandmaster. Perhaps he's still some distance away from that rank, but he's certainly approaching it. As time passes, he'll be able to refine a warship. That's the reason I'm bringing you to the royal city. Upon learning his intentions, Yang Kai said, Master, you want me to help create a warship? He Yuan nodded. You're a great master in artifact refining, so you should be able to help out. After all, there are not a lot of artifact refiners as capable as you in the Black Ink clan. Upon hearing that, Yang Kai said, since it is your order, this servant will do his utmost to comply. He Yuan was apparently pleased with his response. Just do your best when you're there, and don't cause trouble. If other territory lords have their eyes on you, just tell them you're my Black Ink disciple. When you manage to make a name for yourself, you'll be a great contributor to the Black Ink clan. I'll reward you handsomely when the time comes. You flatter me, Master. I will do my best to help. While facing away from him, He Yuan waved his hand. We'll reach the royal city in a few days. You don't have to stay here. Go get some rest. Then I will retire to my room. Yang Kai cupped his fist and stepped backwards before turning around to leave. After he entered the room assigned to him, Yang Kai sat down with his legs crossed and fished out a set of 7th-order materials to cultivate. Although he already had a speculation about He Yuan's intentions, he hadn't expected the latter to make them so clear to him while they were on their way to the destination. After giving it a thought though, he realized that He Yuan must have decided to inform him about it in advance so that he wouldn't be perplexed when they arrived at the royal city. Nevertheless, it never crossed He Yuan's mind that it was exactly Yang Kai's intention to sneak into the core of the Black Ink clan's territory. Everything was going well, and if nothing unexpected happened, after they arrived at the royal city, He Yuan would recommend Yang Kai to take part in the warship refining project. By then, it would be easy for Yang Kai to gather information. Having said that, there was one thing that troubled him. How was he going to relay the information he had gathered back to Yinyang Pass? It wasn't that those from Yinyang Pass had neglected this issue per se, but while he could pretend to be a Black Ink disciple and sneak into this place, sending information back remained a difficult problem. Those from Yinyang Pass were simply unable to solve this problem. They only told Yang Kai to come up with a way to send the information to them. Yang Kai had been racking his brain for a long time, but he still couldn't come up with a solution, and it was now giving him a headache. Marshall Peak, Chapter 5087, The Royal City. A few days later, Yang Kai was cultivating when he felt the large ship shaking a little and decelerating. Following that, a Black Ink clansman was heard shouting from the deck, "Get ready. We're about to reach the royal city." Yang Kai put away his resources and dashed towards the deck. As he looked in the direction where the large ship was headed, a gigantic universe fragment came into his sight. He Yuan's territory was also a large universe fragment, but it paled compared to the one before his eyes. The universe fragment where the royal city was located was 10 times larger than He Yuan's territory. At the sight of it, Yang Kai was astonished. It had to be noted that a universe fragment was basically the result of a universe world breaking apart. Just by looking at the size of this universe fragment, Yang Kai could imagine how colossal the universe world must have been when it was whole. This must have originally been a flourishing world, but now, there was only a universe fragment left, and it was engulfed in thick Black Ink strength all year long. As the large ship drew nearer, a massive Black Ink nest came into view. Despite the fact that the universe fragment was covered in dense Black Ink strength, it still couldn't conceal the magnificent nest. Looking at the unimaginably large object, Yang Kai was flabbergasted. Jia Jiyu had told him about the different ranks of Black Ink nests, so he was aware that this was supposed to be the royal lord's black ink nest, which was a high-rank nest. On the other hand, Jargo's was just a low-rank black ink nest. Despite being the lowest-rank black ink nest, it could produce more than 1,000 black ink clansmen at any given time as long as enough resources were provided to it. The royal lord's black ink nest in front of them was several dozen times larger than Jargo's black ink nest. Sitting on the universe fragment, the black ink nest looked like an insurmountable mountain. Given enough resources, such a black ink nest would undoubtedly be able to produce several tens of thousands of black ink clansmen at once. Black ink nests were the foundation of the black ink clan, and this one was also the center of the entire royal city. With the black ink nest as the center, the vast area surrounding it made up the royal city. Before the large ship even got closer to the universe fragment where the royal city was located, Yang Kai detected a powerful aura that examined them. The person was obviously a territory lord who was responsible for keeping the royal city safe. He Yuan was just standing on the bow as he revealed a bit of his aura. Soon, the other aura retracted as the person verified He Yuan's identity. Without the need for any instructions, the large ship flew in a particular direction towards the royal city. They soon arrived at a square where more than 100 ships of different sizes were anchored. All of them were much larger than the ships owned by the humans. Nevertheless, these large ships were apparently made by human artifact refiners. Yang Kai was a fairly skilled artifact refiner now, so he could easily figure this out. These large ships were specifically made for the Black Ink clan by the human artifact refiners. "All of you, stay here. I'll see the royal lord now," He Yuan said to his subordinates and left the ship. While standing on the deck, Yang Kai fell into a dazed state. He initially thought that He Yuan would bring him to see the royal lord, so he had been apprehensive all along. After all, he wasn't sure if the royal lord had any special skills that would allow him to see through his deception. If that was the case, he would lose his life before achieving his goal. However, He Yuan apparently didn't have the intention of bringing him to see the royal lord. This allowed Yang Kai to feel relieved. After giving it a thought, he realized that even though he could be considered a treasure as he was a great master artifact refiner, he still wasn't important enough to see the royal lord directly. It was expected that He Yuan wouldn't bring him along. Since Yang Kai didn't have to face the royal lord just yet, he set his mind at ease. He Yuan headed towards the giant black ink nest, and he was soon out of sight. Yang Kai looked around and realized that the black ink clansmen who had tagged along all sported solemn expressions. While standing upright, they stared at the black ink nest in a respectful manner. Besides them, the black ink clansmen staying on the other large ships were in a similar state. It seemed that the black ink clansmen especially revered the royal lord's black ink nest. According to Jia Jiyu, the black ink nest in the royal city was the source of all black ink nests in the yin-yang theater. All the territory lords' black ink nests were bred from this one, and the many low-rank black ink nests were then bred from those territory lord black ink nests. Innumerable black ink clansmen were born from the black ink nests of different ranks. Basically, the black ink nest in the royal city was the source of their lives. That was why they revered this particular black ink nest while they were here. Yang Kai couldn't help but fall into his thoughts. Where is the source of the royal lord black ink nests? It is not likely for them to have appeared out of thin air. I asked Jia Jiyu about it, but he was unable to answer my question. All Jia Jiyu knew was that a royal lord's black ink nest was the highest rank one. However, Yang Kai didn't think that was true. Perhaps there were some secrets that even many of the black ink clansmen were unaware of. It wasn't certain how long the meeting between He Yuan and the royal lord would last, and since Yang Kai was bored, he thought about taking a stroll around the royal city. However, he wasn't familiar with this place, so he was worried that he might invite some trouble. After all, his identity as a human was conspicuous. Furthermore, he had used up all his black ink coins. Even if he came across any good things, he wouldn't have the money to buy them. Therefore, he decided to give up on the idea. He thus shuffled into the cabin and fished out his resources to continue cultivating. This went on for a few days. Finally, there came a moment when he felt He Yuan's aura descending on the deck, so he hurriedly left the cabin. He Yuan was indeed standing on the deck. However, though he was on his own when he left the ship, when he returned, he had another Black Ink clansman with him. The Black Ink clansman was a feudal lord, but his aura was more ample than any feudal lord Yang Kai had seen before. Yang Kai saluted He Yuan respectfully, "Master." "Him?" The unfamiliar Black Ink clansman looked down at Yang Kai and examined him. He Yuan replied, "Yes, it's him." The Black Ink clansman nodded, "I'll take him from here, then. I hope he's as skillful in artifact refining as you've described him to be, Sir He Yuan." He Yuan said, "Why would I lie to the royal lord?" Then, he beckoned to Yang Kai, "Yang Kai, Master." Yang Kai stepped forward. Like a senior to him, He Yuan instructed, "You will follow him. Remember what I told you before? Don't tarnish my reputation while you are here." Yang Kai cupped his fist, "Don't worry, Master. I will do my utmost to serve you." A satisfied He Yuan nodded and turned to look at the feudal lord. "You can take him away now." The Black Ink clansman then activated his Black Ink strength and engulfed Yang Kai with it. After turning into a cloud of black fog, he shot into the sky. He didn't even bid He Yuan farewell before he left. Nevertheless, He Yuan didn't mind it. Although he was a territory lord, the other person was a personal guard of the royal lord. There was no doubt that he was weaker than He Yuan now, but he would be on an equal footing in the future. Everything was going well. Initially, after he was defeated in the previous battle and lost the resource harvesting area to the humans a few years ago, He Yuan was supposed to be punished. However, after he recommended Yang Kai to the royal lord, the latter didn't even reprimand him, just like he had expected. The royal lord only gave him a warning and told the personal guard to come to this place with He Yuan and take Yang Kai away. Since the matter had been settled, He Yuan decided to leave. He then told the person controlling the large ship to set off and return to his territory. Meanwhile, Yang Kai was engulfed in thick Black Ink strength and dragged along by the Black Ink clansman at the speed of lightning. As he was covered in the Black Ink strength, it was hard for him to identify the exact direction they were traveling, though he had a general idea. As time passed, Yang Kai realized that they were actually moving further away from the universe fragment where the royal city was located. This astounded him. They were trying to build a warship, and this task couldn't be carried out by only one person, so there must be a lot of human artifact refiners that had been gathered together. Since this was an important matter, the Black Ink clan must have set up a secure place to conduct research and experiments. Yang Kai initially thought that such a place must be in the royal city. That was the speculation of those from Yin-Yang Pass as well. That was why they decided to let him become He Yuan's Black Ink disciple so that he could move around the royal city and gather information freely. Now, it seemed that the place where the warship was being developed wasn't in the royal city. The revelation made Yang Kai feel elated. Since the research center wasn't in the royal city, it meant that he didn't have to directly face the royal lord. This was good news to him. After all, the royal lord was too powerful. While they were on the way to their destination, Yang Kai asked probingly, "Where are we going, sir?" The Black Ink clansman apparently didn't have the intention of answering his question and simply ordered impassively, "Shut up." Yang Kai directly kept his mouth shut. It seemed that it was difficult to deal with this feudal lord, for even He Yuan had to be polite to him. It was apparent that his identity was special. If Yang Kai was oppressed by him, he wouldn't have a way to get his revenge. Just 1 hour later, the feudal lord suddenly stopped in his tracks and looked around, as though he was trying to find something. Yang Kai scanned the surroundings and soon detected an anomaly somewhere in the void. Although that place didn't look different from the area around it, there was a weak fluctuation of space principles. Yang Kai arched his brow. If he wasn't mistaken, there was a portal over there. He soon realized what was going on. The place where the warship was being developed wasn't in the royal city. Instead, it was in a sealed world that would take a person an hour to reach from the royal city. This was indeed a good arrangement. As expected, after looking around for a while, the feudal lord stared fixedly at the hidden portal. Following that, he fished out a token and infused his power into it before casting a light at that place. A ripple spread across the void as the light penetrated a barrier and disappeared into another world. Yang Kai felt his brow twitching. It was apparent to him that this was a human's creation. The people who set up a restriction around here and made this access token were definitely human cultivators. After the feudal lord was done with all that, he waited patiently. A moment later, a ripple spread across the void as the portal to the sealed world opened up. Supposedly, someone from the inside had opened it. When the portal was large enough, the feudal lord grasped Yang Kai's collar and dashed inside. The view around Yang Kai changed and he realized that he was now inside a sealed world. Just like the sealed worlds that had been explored before, this one was full of greenery. It was beautiful and refreshing like a spring day. The portal that led to the outside world was just behind him, however, he felt his skin tightening at that instant. This couldn't be helped, as he realized that several dozen auras had locked onto him, one of them being particularly fierce. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,